Um, ow, Joe. Ouch. Um, Hi everybody. This is uh, this is the Without a Net 6 month anniversary. Holy shit, everything is still going.
Woo.
Uh, Episode party thing. Um, how is everybody tonight?
I am excellent. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful.
Hello, everybody listening.
Hey y'all.
How
I'm
we doing,
doing
everybody?
well.
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear Mike go off?
Eventually, Mary Sue will get to talk if we don't.
I said
No, it's my
I'm
job to
good.
walk over her.
Oh my!
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shut
She
up.
just
Not
she's
gonna
Forget it.
do
really
it.
cool
No,
though. I just can't.
this is it.
It's
I'm
not
done.
Call of Cthulhu. You're not allowed to talk yet.
Oh,
I'm gonna
snap.
kill you all.
Man,
can't
and I
wait.
haven't even made it
Too
like
late.
an official announcement about that yet. God,
Mike ruins everything.
he does.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Um, Awesome. Glad to hear that everybody's in a good mood to get started tonight. Uh, so I've been soliciting questions from people. Mary Sue's been soliciting questions, and I just kind of wanted to I don't know. 6 months feels like such a anniversary type thing that it felt necessary to do something about it. Um, so yeah, here we are. Um, I should have worked on some kind of script or something for this.
No, that's
Man.
okay. I mean, I was gonna say the 6 month anniversary thing sounds very chick, but if you want to mark 6 months, that's fine.
I also we're cheating because it's 6 months of release and we've been playing for a year.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like that's something like the podcast has had a birthday. Yeah, I'm staring intently at you through the.
If I had one of those brrr thing they have at birthday parties, I would blow it with
Oh god, that'd been super annoying. Um, so at current, the last episode that was released was the one where you guys went to Morgana after the train job and got paid, and Chuck was there, and then you guys kind of broke to go into downtime. So that's where we are in released episodes. If you guys can think back the 2 months to wherever that was in your
And
brain.
speaking of that, not anyone in particular, but we should probably try very hard to avoid spoilers for stuff that comes after.
yeah,
Yeah.
like when we all die.
I'm not specifically talking about RC,
About RC.
but
See, and y'all just got done trying to blame me for everything.
I can't remember what happened 2 months ago. So.
Yo, I'm not gonna
I'm
lie.
good.
Two Jacks was talking about something in the channel. Who's apparently newest #1 super fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was thinking, I'm like, I don't remember that because it was like 2 months ago that we recorded, and then we had like 2 or 3 episodes that we recorded since then because of Gen Con. We kind of moved our schedule around. Sorry, I'm
Thank
shutting
you.
my windows. And we had like all those extra sessions in there, and I was like, I don't remember that at all. It's just a mess. But one of the things I did want to start off with, we have had some crazy success. Well, yeah, some crazy success on Patreon since we kind of started it that have helped me pay for things like the podcast hosting and external hard drive and some other stuff like the Street Lethal giveaways we did, and whenever Kill Code comes out, we'll be doing a giveaway for that, and the super secret Halloween project thing that we'll talk about later.
yeah, so thanks to everyone for that. That's a pretty big deal.
It is a pretty big deal, and I have a list over on the left side of the screen that I'm going to run down real quick. All right.
Ooh, fancy.
So Cheyenne, thank you. Chris V, thank you. Chris W, thank you. David B, thank you. David R, thank you. Eric DeMage, thank you. Jacob M, thank you. Mary Sue, go to hell.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Sue.
Wow.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Mary, too.
Nate C, thank you. New Death Scope, thank you. The Adams, thank you. Relative Dimension, thank you. Scott S, thank you. Sean W, thank you. Real James, thank you. Thomas B, thank you. Travis, sorry, but thank you.
That's Travis. That's my dad.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that's a pronunciation thing or what. Thank you,
No.
Chuck's dad. And then finally, thank you, Ziggy the Troll. You guys are all great and amazing, and I totally put up episode 32 on the $3 Patreon because I botched the raw recording somehow, so it was just the edited episode instead of the raw one. So you can go listen to Mary Sue and Chuck be awkward.
We'll get a lot of that, I think.
It's pretty great. So I guess I want to start off addressing the troll in the room. Hi, Michael.
Michael's here.
Michael is here.
When did you
All
get
right.
here?
Michael came back in a week and a half ago now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We're all very excited. It's great to
We're all
have.
very excited. Michael,
We had like a
Voice
big.
of reason.
We had a big party. It was great.
Michael, do you want to tell us anything about your trip?
Do I want to tell you anything about my trip? Well, in what regards?
I remember you telling us an awesome story about how you arm twisted some coworkers into forcibly listening.
Arm twisting is such a brazen term. Yeah, so as some of you may know, may not know, I'm not sure anymore. I am active duty military. So yeah, I had to go on my little deployment. Every now and again, whenever I got to port, I was able to actually download a lot of the actual episodes, especially up through the ones that I was missing. So I can keep track of what the group was actually doing or not doing, like flying a plane. And in doing so, some of my coworkers actually heard me listening to it, because I'm not going to listen to it on headphones in my own office. I'll put it on my speakers. And some of them got curious about it, and I introduced them to the show, and they got a kick out of it, so they started listening. And it kind of spiraled from that point to the point to where I had a good 90 to 100 people on the ship coming to me asking me, hey, where's the next episode? I need to get my fix. I need to get my fix. And I was like, well, you're going to have to deal with it, because we got to get port to get some internet so I can download some of this stuff. So, yeah.
There's a good chance that some of these guys are going to be hearing this probably.
Yeah, y'all, they'll know who I am. They'll know. They know where I'm working right now. I already know I'm going to end up getting harassed about it. So
This is where we go in the Navy.
RC, I will find a way to reach through this screen and choke you.
The Navy.
So we're jumping ahead a little bit, but this is one of those witticisms that would have gotten cut.
Very much so.
Yeah, that moment when you realize Michael has heard everything you've said over all the episodes, it's like, quick mental research. How much shit have I talked?
Oh, somebody coming close to crying, maybe, on hearing a message?
Nope, that's not me.
Which I'm super excited that episode managed to come out with the little note from you to be live, so that you being around wasn't nearly as much as a surprise.
Oh, so that did air? Nice.
Yeah, that one did go out. I think that was actually the one that just went out. So, from the Twitch chat, the Relative Dimension Pod asks Michael, are these people on the ship longer than you, and would they appreciate gaming materials if that's even allowed?
Longer than me in what regard? Do we appreciate gaming materials? Yes, we do appreciate gaming materials. This particular deployment that I ended up going on, we actually had a Dungeons and Dragons / role-playing group that actually got together. I'm talking about 7 or 8 different groups of 5 to 6 people each that were just randomly getting together and playing on their own. We started it. We started basically a little meet and greet, a sit down, get together, so that, we're all nerds here. We all understand this, and we understand how hard it is sometimes to talk to other people saying, hey, yeah, are you interested? Have you ever thought of this? Well, we fostered enough other interest and new interest where we were able to run 5 or 6 different games going off at the time. Me personally, I went off and got several different items from Amazon, a couple books, bags of dice, the miniature figures, that when we'd get together, I would randomly just walk around to the groups, hey, here you go, and just start giving away the stuff, fostering the whole gaming mentality on it.
Nice.
You're like a gaming Jesus. If you give a man,
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Good day, Harry.
if you give a man a game, he will game for a day. If you teach a man a game, he will game for his life.
I wonder how many of them try to figure out how to shoot dice with a D12. What's my point? Shit,
So yeah, I guess I can start off with you guys. Do you guys have any questions for each other before we get into the fan submitted ones?
Oh, geez, you've given me.
I
some
do.
heads up. Oh.
I have one.
I didn't know we had homework.
So
Yeah.
I firmly believe that when we build characters, we put a little bit of ourselves in them. So for all of you, what did you put of yourself in your character? What do you most identify with?
Who wants to start with that? I can answer.
You
this
spoke
really
first, so that means
Yeah.
You're first spoke ordering of the general tip, so you're up, buddy.
Oh.
A little bit of robot there.
Mhm.
So I try really hard not to be, but I am a very private person and a little reclusive. I try really hard to break those habits, but I always kind of err back to it. I'm very much the kind of person, like if nobody kind of gets me out of my head, I can end up staying in my house for a week at a time without really doing a whole lot. So yeah, I mean, Boz is sort of a magnification of that. I think she holds it almost as an ideal in a way. She thinks it's a positive quality about herself. I don't think it's a positive quality about myself, but it's fun to explore the character. And I do the same thing, Mary Sue. All my characters are some part of me with something else that's unfamiliar mixed in, to just sort of explore a part of myself. So I think that's a really good question.
I think you're very, you are kind of reserved. I mean, you were the last one to put nudes in our private chat. Took a lot of cajoling to get that to happen.
Put what in your?
What? I was making it. I said you were the last one to put nudes into our private game chat.
Nudes.
This is a joke.
Okay, I don't.
NUDES.
You can't edit me out.
Nudes. Nudes. Oh, it's the accent. The accent is just.
I heard
naked pictures.
No, I didn't get it.
Don't worry,
I was like, news. I'm not a journalist. What is this?
God,
are we? Is this NPR now? I didn't realize it.
And
NPR.
some people wonder how much of Richard's witticisms get cut.
It was gonna be like,
that was the yeah.
The ratio is going to be very high tonight. It's normal. You just don't hear it.
When you mine for gold, you don't get a lot, but it's still worth it happening. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know why that's relevant. We're gonna keep digging. Keep digging.
I would describe it as digging holes a lot of the time, so that makes sense.
Indeed. I'm sorry. Let's just move along. Let's just move along, Chuck. Let's move. We're moving along.
No. I feel like since I went, I'm gonna tag you, RC. I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, in real life, it's kind of. I mean, I am not the greatest at separating, say, my character from, my own personal character. I tend to be kind of a smartass in real life, and it translates well. It's not an act, y'all. But that's pretty much it. I like to make jokes. I like to be kind of a smartass, and in real life, I like cool techie toys. So I have a character who has lots of cool techie toys. Cool techie toys are fun. So I don't feel like I really went out there and just reached in terms of acting and going beyond my range. And really exploring a character I don't have a whole hell of a lot in common with. And I've grown up around people like RC my whole life. Good old boys who worked on trucks and cars, and that's just what they did and what they knew. And a lot of stuff they said was maybe not the most progressive, or sometimes it'd be somewhat problematic, but generally they were good people, and so that was a character I kind of wanted to play and have a little fun with. Have I sufficiently answered, or is that good?
Yeah, that sounded good to me.
It's good enough for me.
Okay.
Pick somebody else.
I want to tag Chuck. I'm going back to alphabetical order.
Great, thanks. So for me, I would say, I'm a nerdy person in general, so having a nerdy decker kind of fits. Also, my real life job is software development, so being in software stuff for him, that helps. I don't think it's aired yet, but you'll find out Chuck is really into food. I'm not, but my wife is, so I tried to emulate that from what she's talked about it.
I thought you were going to say we were going to find out he's really Canadian.
Oh, is he really Canadian? No, I don't think he's Canadian. I don't think I've actually thought that far back, though. So who knows? Maybe. It's a possibility.
I mean, it is the UCAS, right? It's, Canada and America kind of mushed together, so aren't we all a little Canadian?
No.
I suppose.
Oh, that's right. You're from the cast.
Oh, right.
That's damn right.
Right. Other than that, I don't know. I don't jump on grenades in my daily life, so that's one thing.
Yo, I totally.
That's definitely different.
When you did that, I totally put the GIF of Steve Rogers jumping on the grenade and Captain America in the chat on loop for you guys.
Yeah. No, that's mostly it. But that's so far most of the character is. He's a nerdy guy who does computer stuff and likes food. So, almost exact, I guess.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pick Mary Sue next.
No, I asked the question. It's Michael.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
That's the only one left. Is Michael.
Oh.
Nope, you got to answer.
No,
I
you
asked
go
the
last.
question.
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to answer your own questions.
So, Michael.
There's no getting away from it, Mary Sue. You better answer that question.
I will after you answer. Obviously, I go
Chuck
last.
didn't pick me. Chuck didn't pick me. He picked you. Tag, you're it. No tag back.
All right.
Get over it.
Fine. So I think I relate most to Mary Sue's optimistic outlook. I try to always see the positive aspect of everything. So I think that's in there. Also, I think the rationalizing, how Mary Sue likes to rationalize all of her choices and decisions. Yes, that's totally me as well. Because I got to make myself right, and that's how you do it, right? So, yeah, I think those two. I think that's enough.
That was very honest.
Wasn't it?
I'm glad you finally admitted it's rationalizing. It's a more rationalized, like rationalizing. Look at turtles all the way down of rationalizing.
Let's not be judgy.
Let me explain how this works. See, I'm the player, and that's the
Strap in.
character. I'm the player. That's the character. So the player understands this, but the character doesn't. She's oblivious. That's the whole point.
Parliamentary inquiry. Then why is this always present in every chat we have, regardless of whether you're in character or out of character?
I said I relate to those aspects. Shut up, Michael. Go.
Is it my job to make you cry now or something? What gives?
You all make me cry. I'm crying right now from laughing. Okay, go on.
Well, that works. Okay, so original question being, what do we put of ourselves into the characters?
Hmm.
Or do we try to put ourselves into the characters? It's kind of a tricky question. I've been doing this gaming for entirely too long now, it seems. And each character, I just try to do something different. I don't try to throw myself into the characters because, in my opinion, playing a game, getting together with a bunch of people that you get along with, that you enjoy hanging out with, and everybody's sitting back having fun, throwing dice, whether it's face to face or over the internet. You want to try something new. You can do something that you don't normally do. It's funny because one of the original ways that I met Bamps was from a shadow walking episode, and one of his original comments to me was, "Yeah, with that laugh, you don't have an option. You're the troll. You are, period. You're just the troll. Can't see you doing anything else." And to be honest, it's stuck. Here I am, next episode, next season, playing the troll. I don't mind it. I get along with it. I get a kick out of it. Do I put myself into it? A little bit. I mean, but there's the line you got to draw. Myself personally, I wouldn't do half the things that Michael would do. I wouldn't be sitting there going to go talk to people. It's always been my mentality of, if I don't need to talk to you for anything, there's no reason to talk to you for anything. I'm going to leave you alone. Michael tries to step out of that shell and go purposely poke the bear, if you will.
Who else has questions?
I wish that you'd asked us like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, like you kind of put those. Yeah, hey y'all, come prepared.
Sorry, I thought all of the times would be like, "Hey, I'm looking for questions for the game for the anniversary show."
Is the character of Boz like a walking allegory for clinical depression? Because it's real.
Boz is not depressed. Boz is. There's a word that I'm trying to think of, and it's
Pessimist.
She's not even a pessimist, really. I think in a lot of ways she's an optimist. She's sort of resigned. I think she knows deep down how this is all going to end, and she's just trying to prolong it, I think. I guess that sounds a lot like pessimism. But she's more of a realist, I think. She just sort of like, she is trying to mitigate the damage of her life going down the tubes. And my background in real life, actually, I've got a degree in psychology. So when I think about characters, I think about them complexly. And I like kind of broken characters. All my characters are always a little broken in one fashion or another. So Boss being a little broken is sort of an expression of that. I think a lot about how someone might deal with stuff. Like this is Shadowrun. I don't think there's a lot of games that people run where their combat character, which Boz is essentially a combat character, kills someone for the first time and then has like kind of an emotional breakdown over it. Like that's me applying sort of my real life experience and knowledge to make a character more interesting, more complex. And yeah, that comes out kind of like on the grim side. But I think it's like a little, I like to think at least, I don't know how other people feel about it, but I like to think it's kind of brings it closer to reality and makes her a little more interesting because I know that she's been kind of a slow burn character. So yeah.
Well, when I listened to it, it actually made me a little jealous because of how much better it was than I've been doing.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I know.
You're making me feel a little bad. No, I think you guys are awesome. I love you guys. That's why like I'm trying to do the whole podcast justice, which includes everybody.
Aww. Chuck.
Uh-oh.
How crazy has it been to transition from listener to cast member? And I think I warned you I was going to ask you this.
You did, and I put no thought into it, so I'm gonna wing it. Here we go. The shock. I mean, it was definitely shocking getting picked. I personally thought I didn't feel I didn't do that great of a job to get picked, so that was more of the shock of it. Actually getting in though, in the process of getting everything set up, yeah, that part, that the actual transition wasn't hard. It was more of, uh, yes, sorry, my wife just mentioned I was giddy for a month. I was. Uh, sorry. Yeah, so the actual getting my character made, getting everything set up and started, all that went smoothly and nicely. Um, the toughest part of it was being behind on the story. Where I came in kind of fit nicely, so I didn't need to know much of what happened before. But that was a bit of a struggle. So there's that. Now the transition, because I thought the question was more of when you first said it, how's it different or something? I can't remember how when you first asked it, or is this roughly what you wanted?
I don't really know what I wanted when I asked, and I
Oh,
definitely
okay.
don't remember how I asked it the first time. Let's be honest.
Okay.
At least it didn't say don't meet your heroes.
Yeah. It is kind of fun to have your family members in the Twitch chat while we're recording this to just dime you out about how you were giddy for a month.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's correct. My father says that's all I talk about. We've been visiting my family every other weekend or so, and it's hard to talk about other things other than Shadowrun, so, and specifically the podcast. So it's always on my mind. Um,
Me too.
yeah.
Almost things I'm afraid to say stuff. I love character, man. Like I just it's
You're breaking up, which is convenient, so now you don't have to sound like a nice person,
yay. Oh.
We'll keep RC in character.
right? You can shower him with that again if you want.
Yeah, I said, "Here, is it working? Testing, testing."
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, I really like Chuck's characters. It's worked out great. I just don't want to spoil anything, so I can't say, oh, that time that the thing happened. I don't because it's you're gonna like yell me out of the chat if I
Yeah, that's
screw
a
that
good
up.
point.
But yeah, it's been great. I mean, you can't as a player, you're great to work with. The character is awesome and hilarious and cool. So, and it's pretty cool. I'm glad you're having a good time, man.
Oh, thanks. RC's great too. I don't have a long spiel. Just he's good.
That's fine. That's I'll just note it to your personal file.
Long spiels are more RC's thing anyway.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions, or does somebody want to pick one off the table?
Well, apparently my wife just said that Chuck XRC is OTP.
Hmm. I don't know if that says more about the game or your wife,
I'm not sure.
because
Wait, what happened to Chuck's RC? Is what?
So Chuck and RC together is the one true pairing.
Oh my
The
god.
OT. Oh, of course, yes. I can see that. If I had a hanger, we need some magic in there.
oh god, that just makes it worse. Um. So if nobody has questions, I'm gonna pick questions for you guys to answer.
Do it.
All right. I'm gonna start with Palmer. Yeah. I'm gonna start with Palmer's questions up here in the upper left because he's in the upper left. His first question is, how did you design your Patreon rewards? I am lazy. I knew that I didn't want to get super crazy with Patreon. I had talked to a couple of other podcasters that have Patreons that are successful and solicited advice. Did my legwork, did my research. One thing they said was, don't do physical things. Because that's just a giant hassle. And I'm like, okay, I have ideas for like merch or that kind. Well, I guess it is just merch related to the show, but I don't think we're quite at the point where I am ready to look at them and get them produced. Maybe look at something special for Gen Con next year, because I think everybody wants to go to Gen Con. So, made it real simple. The dollar level is the entire prologue that we did, which was one of the base level things when we started this podcast, that I was like, look, here's what I want to do. And the prologue was there from day one, because I didn't want, by doing the prologue, by the time we get to the release point, you guys have all interacted with each other and played with each other for a couple of months. The awkwardness of you all meet in a tavern is gone, because now your characters and you as players know each other, and it lets us hit the ground and just start going, which is what I wanted to make it more interesting there. At the $3 level, I tried to do the world building thing, but I couldn't keep up with it as far as questions about NPCs and that kind of thing, and it just kind of fell apart. So I'm changing it as of this weekend, so that at the $3 level, you will get the week ahead's episode in the raw form, so not edited. I'll take out some of the background noise. I'll kill a bunch of the silences and level out the audio levels, but it'll basically be a week ahead at the $3 mark. And I'm pretty sure I could find some other stuff to put in there.
You never did release that stuff that we wrote, did you?
I don't even remember. I don't think everybody finished it.
Mm-mm.
No, I think it was just me and Val, and Val's gone now.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever released it there. But it'll
Guess I'll just throw mine in the garbage then.
with the rest of you. So
Well,
that
I
was.
wasn't, to be fair, I wasn't aware that I was supposed to write stuff.
You're,
Yeah, don't you try to get out of this.
Chuck is sweet and innocent in all things.
Exactly.
So that was more or less what I did. There were some talks about doing monthly book giveaways or something like that, and for the moment I have kind of just resigned that to as the new books came out, because I screwed up the Street Lethal contest. I actually ended up giving away 2 copies of Street Lethal, so oh well.
How did that happen?
So when I did the drawing, I drew whatever the number was, but I read the name of the other guy that was next to it in the list,
No.
and I
You
sent.
drew 6, but you read the name under 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I'm sorry, but I need like 10 minutes to make a work phone call. That's an
Yeah.
emergency. I'm sorry.
Go.
Yeah, goodness.
So I accidentally. I didn't catch it until after I sent a message to the guy that I didn't roll. So I was like, well, fuck it. You know, I got to do right by the people who are willing to support the show. So,
No, it's very
Yeah.
noble of you.
barf. To go on to his next question of how many RC witticisms get cut in each episode.
Most of them.
Not enough.
It's perfect because he just had to step away.
Right.
Not that many. It has to be a real, like, complete miss for me to completely cut it. Most times when they're just like, just groaners, now that I do the outtake stuff at the end, I
Right.
just put it into a different track, and then at the end I take all of that stuff in that bottom track and I just stick it at the end so that you can hear all about all of the groaners and dumb things that people have talked about.
I haven't listened to all of the episodes. I've listened to some of them, but I have gone back and listened to the stuff cut at the end, and it's pretty fun. I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that sometimes it doesn't fit the theme of the episode, or we go too much into mechanics and talking because I like to cut all of that stuff.
Too much of a sidebar.
Yeah, basically. Like this entire thing tonight, it would all be cut. It's all joke. And then Palmer's last question is, what scene amused, tickled, or touched each participant the most? And I'm gonna popcorn Chuck to start.
God damn it. Oh crap. The scene that amused, tickled, or touched me the most. So my favorite scene so far. Well, okay, so no, I can't say that. How about the Candyman? I really liked the Candyman. That was a cool, neat scene. I'm just not in it, which is fine.
Wait, can you describe what that is? I'm actually I was there? Because I don't remember.
You were there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ew.
Candyman is the was the maybe victim is the wrong word of
Willing
that-
participant.
yeah, willing participant that
Hmm.
Morgana gave Val, who had what was it?
Oh
The-
yeah.
the sugar issues.
He was hyperglycemic or hypoglycemic. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, one of those. And yeah, I just like that whole awkward, like it's kind of like a first kiss sort of thing, but it's weird. Yeah.
He was really
that was
into
great.
getting his blood drank.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite one so far.
You get to choose. We're doing this by like
Oh,
grade school
right.
rules.
So I'm going to pick Michael because you went last time.
All right. My favorite scene or most amused part. This is going way back. I don't know if it's actually on or available yet, or unless you're a Patreon. Was in the beginning with Howard.
It's so perfect that RC is not here for this part.
He'd get off on a rant.
The sheer amount of almost bitter hatred / bias that RC has for Howard upon first meeting the man and him just shaking his head like, why are you doing this to me? And RC taking that the wrong way. I love it. It was just an amazing, hilarious interaction that still has consequences to this day.
That guy tried so hard to not be a pain in the ass, and yet
Yep.
hopefully everyone who's listening has actually listened to the prologue, because there's some really important stuff in there.
Yeah, there's gonna be a because one of the promises I made to Richard was that I would give him Howard, and now that Michael is back in the area, Howard is going to be on the menu shortly.
Oh, spoilers! What are you doing? What are you doing, GM?
I'm teasing. It's not a spoiler. It hasn't happened yet. This is not past tense. So there.
And this is all apropos considering RC is not here to hear this.
Right? I've told him I'm giving him Howard soon. Anyway, you're up for popcorn.
All right, Mary Sue.
I don't know. It's hard to choose just one because I think all of the others do such a really good job. So I think RC, any conversation he has with Mama is fantastic, and I'm amused the entire time. I think.
No, hold on. Don't go picking a
what?
bunch because you're gonna step on someone else's toes. You might say something someone else wanted to say.
Okay, I guess I'll shut up. Boss.
Oh, you have to just jump ahead.
No,
No,
it's okay. Boss, go.
I was afraid you're gonna pick this one.
Okay.
So it's all
Because it's about
self-serving.
Mary Sue.
Pretty
Well,
much.
it's about Mary Sue.
I wasn't gonna pick
and-
myself.
This is also from the prologue, but wow, there's a point at which, out of nowhere, unexpectedly, because at this point, Mary Sue is just
I think I know.
a lovely little HR elf who's never had an unkind word for anybody, as we're trying to get back into the building during a lockdown. I hope I hope it's okay that I'm describing this.
That was on the that was released.
Yeah,
That was like the first or second episode.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep.
And Mary Sue, out of nowhere, pulls a silenced pistol out of her jacket and shoots a cop in the back. Oh, I just love, like, that is, to this day, we continually bring that up to taunt her.
You do. You guys do continually bring that up. Not to mention, maybe, or not to mention, so many other people love to bring that up too. Like, oh my God, she's a cop killer. I didn't kill that cop. It was a gel round. He's fine.
That is literally, if we had Shadowrun names, that would be your Shadowrun name. Cop killer.
Cop killer. No.
No, we don't just have to call her Gel.
Don't worry, I have an idea for her to actually get a street name.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry.
Oh gosh. I dread
it'd be so
what
good.
that's going to be. Because I know what you pitched as a street name, and I believe I said no. And if it ends up that,
it's not
I'll
even
be
close
so
to that.
mad.
Not
Okay.
even close.
Bubbles?
Dandelion?
No.
Dandelion's a good one.
He wanted, can I say it?
I don't care.
He wanted my street name to be Trigger. I said, no, that's a stuffed horse.
That's
No.
a really good one, though. I like it.
No!
I think
It's
it started off.
referential,
Trigger.
It's catchy.
I think
No.
it started off as Trigger Happy because you just shot
I
that
would,
guy.
but people would say Trigger for short. And no, I would rather go with Cop Killer.
Hey, y'all back. Sorry about that.
Welcome
Yeah,
back.
hi.
Guess what?
What was it?
What scene amused, tickled, or touched each participant the most? Go, your turn.
Oh, Christ. I can have a minute? You know?
All right, you can have a minute. I'll go. I have two. And the first one was when you guys were coming back to Scrappers, and everybody but Michael was in his little apartment and discussing what you guys were going to tell him about the situation you were in. And Michael goes off with him to check on the hellhounds, and then just bleh.
I remember that.
Because,
We're all being super serious, super sneaky, and Michael's like, eh.
because that was, I think, like the first real instance where it was like, man, this is something special, because on a meta level, we never discussed anything about what was going to happen. I give the guys some ideas about the things that I see happening in each episode as we kind of go into the next one. It's like, okay, next episode we're gonna do the meat for the next job. We're gonna do some legwork, and that so we have a little bit of an idea so we can keep on pace. Nowhere in there does it get, okay, the group is gonna split up and Michael is gonna spill the beans. Michael was just like, that's what Michael would do.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing full well about the conversation in the other room about not telling him anything.
And a little bit of a key in here. When they were all having this conversation and I was outside in my office, I was dying laughing because I was like, yeah, Michael's going to do this. I don't care what y'all are planning.
We had a small conversation because Scrapper knew a bunch of stuff. Because Scrapper is a Shadowrunner, he is wise to the criminal ways. So when you've got these people coming up and a handful of them are wearing outfits that say Paradynamics on it with a shady deal, he's going to spend a little time to just do a quick Google to see what that is. So when they go out there in that yard and Scrapper's like, so what'd you do at Paradynamics? Michael, being the troll that he is, just starts vomiting forth information. It's like awesome.
It made perfect sense too, because Michael was very sort of seeing the world through fresh eyes. He didn't. There wasn't any reason for him to be suspicious of Scrapper or anything like that. So.
And it was Michael, like Scrapper was like, I'm gonna go because you guys need time, and Michael was like, I'm gonna come with you. He didn't say, hey Michael, why don't you come help me with the dogs or anything like that. Michael did it on his own, which was. And then the second part is, after that first big job, you guys had 3 weeks of downtime, which we didn't actually skip playing for 3 weeks, but we had everybody getting together at the scrapyard and the way that everybody just kind of came together felt really natural, and it was great, and I loved it, and I thought to myself, we have something a little special here. And now that I'm done being gross, RC, what'd you come up with?
I think the funniest time, excuse me, was when we were in a car advantage. I think it was Mary Sue's car, and I had a call from Mama as voiced by Bamps, and like I just needed everyone to shut up. Exactly. I need everybody just to shut up. And I think Boss kept saying shit, and it was just like,
Yeah.
who was that, Richard? Like I was supposed to be at work, and it's like these are the people who are the rapscallions, the ruffians that she saw, and it was like blowing my cover. And it's like, bro, you're just like, this is not cool. It's not cool.
Boss said it was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was fun. It was like the first really good time I think where RC got trolled from Boz. Usually that's a one-way street.
I don't like how this turned into.
It's like this is an unfair object.
You have to have the city workers come and change these signs back. One-way street. That's a good scene. I remember that.
And back to work. God, this guy's driving me crazy.
Okay. I'm gonna make somebody else pick a category next. I don't care who.
Well, did Boz go over what their favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was Mary
It was
Sue
Cop
shooting
Killer.
cop.
That's right.
It's Cop Killer. Joe from Relative Dimension had a question in the Twitch chat saying how what was it? How willing are we to get into situation? How many people are willing to be in a situation and have their character jump on it?
I'm gonna go first. Several of my NPCs have been handed situations that they have totally taken advantage of, especially Morgana. Oh my god, it's so much fun.
That's kind of what she's there for, though.
Yeah, but like in the next to last episode, Chuck came over to thank her for the drinks, and she escalates because she's like, "Here's a cred stick, do something nice for Mary Sue." And to her, 500 Nuyen is nothing, right? She said, "Fix her." So it's like, here you go. Here's $500 for me to get some chuckles out of this.
Yeah, there's an adversarial relationship happening there that actually is one of the questions.
It is.
Why does Mary Sue hate Morgana?
Because to me, Morgana seems to have this attitude like she's above everyone else. And because of that, we should just do what she says and be happy about it. And to me, that's kind of like a bully. And so, or to Mary Sue, that's a bully. It's a mean girl type of attitude. And she doesn't like it. And Morgana has routinely threatened the rest of the group.
What?
Don't know what you're talking about.
I don't
recall the rest of the group getting threatened. She definitely has.
Well, if you guys want Mary Sue to be more nice to Morgana, I can make that happen.
This is
I don't know where
question.
the evil will come back out of, though. I'm good. Let's just keep it where we understand.
No. I will be nicer to Morgana. Is Morgana better looking than Mary Sue? That doesn't matter, Omnicolor. That makes no difference
That
at
means
all.
yes.
Oh my god!
She better
Is
dress.
that what Omni has? Is Morgana more attractive to her? God
Yes.
damn.
Morgana's a classy lady, and she's done nothing but nice things for us too.
And you're her biggest fan, so I'll
I
be
like her.
nicer because you're besties.
There's-
It's cool.
Well, it's just okay. So we've this is a funny question because we've actually we talk about this on a fairly regular basis. It just comes up after sessions whenever we talk with Morgana. This tends to be a conversation that happens. So it is fun.
Yeah, because it is weird to be
Yes.
adversarial to your fixer or your Johnson. I understand.
Not just that, but she's like a crime. She's like a crime boss. She's not
It
just
just
junk.
rubs me the wrong way. When he does her, it rubs me. It incites a reaction.
That Johnson rubs her the wrong way.
Anyway,
You're all laughing privately, you assholes. You all know that you hit the button.
Why can't we
I
just
laugh.
delete that?
we can't. Everybody heard it.
Yep. It's stuck. One of the questions while you were away, Richard, was how many of RC's witticisms get cut? That would have probably
What?
been one.
You're cutting out.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's getting cut out now? What's up? Exactly.
So you can't just start being nice to Morgana. You guys have to have that in-character conversation. And now that Michael
Oh,
has
I
recently
will.
Oh
come
wow,
back,
those are conversations that don't go well either. So
yeah, that's why it's gonna be fun. Because I don't have to do anything.
well, it's just funny because like Mary Sue is the group's face. She's the one who's very persuasive and can get what she wants out of Morgana. So it's like they have to sort of like hang back. The rest of the group is kind of hanging back, like, oh god, is this going to explode or not? Like they have no choice. Like it has to be Mary Sue, but there's always a chance that something horrible is going to happen. So I think it's a fun relationship. I've enjoyed that adversarial nature, and I'm curious to see where it goes in the future. Personally,
I think Mary Sue hopes that Morgana and Howard will team up and it will all align. We'll have no choice but to take her out.
No. I'll be nicer to Morgana.
To your arch nemesis. Richard, I do need to test you on something, but how does RC feel about the name Howard?
Like, it's like one of those psychological surveys. I'm at 5, not very good. Like from the 1 to 5, the positive, very, very positive, neutral, somewhat negative, very negative, extremely negative. We're the extremely negative.
so why does RC hate Howard so much?
Why does RC hate Howard? Let me count the ways. First, he came into my shop. Strike one.
I'm so sorry.
So he came to the shop. He sabotaged my job. Tried to get me killed. Sabotaged the electronic box thing with his bullcrap cameras. Did not follow directions well. I just cut up his jib. I didn't like him. And I was right. And you all thought I was insane.
No, Boz was with you the whole time. You keep forgetting this. Boz was with you the whole time.
Yes. Boz was with me the whole time. Everybody else was like, "You're just paranoid, RC." And it's like, yeah, and I was right the whole time. That asshat. Yeah, I did. Yeah, you were like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, we were trying to convince everybody that something was actually going on. But it was mostly Boz just had nothing better to do.
No, I thought you were insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As did Val when she was here.
Mary Sue, there's only one problem with that phrase you just used.
Hmm.
You thought he was insane. It's not a
Okay.
was factor, it's an is. And after all of those things that RC just listed, everybody, you need to add the following word. Allegedly.
Oh yeah. If you want to, you can say that RC, the gearhead, is a broken clock. Finally got it right once.
Actually, speaking of all that, this is something I never actually mentioned, but I thought one of the coolest things about the prologue was the fact that Mary Sue, for maybe 75 to 80% of the prologue, she was kind of playing both sides, and I thought that was really, really well done. She was still working with HR, and there was a will she won't she kind of trust thing going on. I thought was really, really cool. The way that that played out a lot longer than I think a lot of people would have played it out. So kudos for that.
Indeed, I did forget about that. Indeed.
Didn't realize that even happened. I'm so oblivious. Okay. I did? Well, kudos to me.
It was like a year ago.
Well, it's just you went you reported back to what was her name, Gladys.
Doris.
Doris. Reported back to Doris and kind of was doing her bidding, and she was kind of like, is Doris the bad guy kind of situation going on? Hopefully everyone's heard the prologue already, because otherwise there's a lot of spoilers.
No. If anything, it'll make them want to go back and listen to it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. The prologue was a lot of fun, and it was great to when we sat down to start the group, we had talked about the kind of story we wanted to tell, and what we settled on was a group of wage slaves that find themselves in over their heads in the shadows. So we started off the prologue playing as a bunch of wage slaves in different sections of the company, and I got to shadow run them, which was awesome, because there was all kinds of behind-the-scenes manipulations. Mary Sue had her memory altered at one point, which still hasn't come back up. Don't worry, I didn't forget about that.
there's a lot of paranoia, a lot of like, who do we trust kind of like, and it went like we were only planning, I think, to do a couple of sessions, but it went on for like a month or something, maybe longer.
At the moment, it's like 15 to 20-ish hours of content up on the
Holy
Patreon
moly.
stuff.
Yeah.
Granted, that's not edited content. It's just, here you go. This is the stuff. The goal was we're going to go through like 2 shatter runs and a little bit of downtime for the characters to meet and interact with each other. But then Richard went off on this crazy paranoia thing and tried to turn it into some kind of murder mystery.
And it worked.
And we followed down that line until we got to the point. The prologue literally ends with Michael calling the guys for help right before they pull up outside the first scene of the release.
It was real good. That's some of our best stuff, honestly. Anyway, I feel like we've been on this question for a while.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question because Mary Sue does hate Morgana.
That wasn't even the start of the initial question either.
It was not even an answer to the question that Joe from Relative Dimension asked. Was
he got his money's worth. Joe got his money's worth.
he didn't pay any money. How willing are the characters, the players, to jump into situations? I will start to give an example of parachuting out of the plane. Mary Sue rolled. Was it a crit glitch?
Yeah, you fell.
It was a critical glitch, and I had edge I could spend to avoid it. But I chose instead to not do that and to take it and see what would happen. Number 1, because I trusted my GM to not kill me.
Sure.
And number 2, because I thought it was better, entertainment-wise, story-wise, whatnot. And so I think as a player, being willing to not be afraid to let that glitch happen and the consequences hit me, I think, yes, I'm more than willing to jump into a situation that presents itself. And I'm done answering that question.
I mean, yeah, like in the actually that very same scene where Mary Sue went into the drink, Buzz, stuck that landing and just jumped in the lake anyway to go after Mary Sue. I totally agree. Like before I got back in a Shadowrun, I was playing a lot of Blades in the Dark, and it really kind of taught me to appreciate the failures and how failure can make for a really good story. I really enjoy when things kind of go sideways and things get unexpected and just jumping into stuff. Obviously, Boz as a character is very reserved. She's always the one kind of trying to convince people not to do anything stupid because that's just who she is. But at the same time, this is not a career path you can be particularly reserved on all the time. So I can't think of anything offhand that she's done that was off the wall, but other than jumping in a lake. But yeah.
Cool, very cool. I had a crit glitch. I also allowed the critical glitch to happen. It was lifting a box. And I threw out my back.
And that followed you around for a few sessions.
It was too good a pass up. Like, you crit glitch on I pick up a box. Do you want to use any of your massive edge pull relative to everybody else to stop? No. Let's just do your worst, Bamps. Is this how you're gonna kill me off?
The way I feel like this was just you, like, deep down being kind of lazy and thinking this is a good chance to not have to do any work.
That's how that particular incident ended.
This is terrible. I guess someone else is gonna have to lift all these boxes.
It was super
If only there was a large, strong orc that could move this stuff for me.
It's perfect on so many levels because you got the racism angle of get the orc and the troll to carry the heavy boxes. And then you have the angle that he'd been giving Valerie so much grief about the wheelchair, and now he was using her wheelchair that it was just cyclical in a nice little condensed circle that was just so perfect.
It's like, everybody, there's a moratorium on jokes about people in wheelchairs for about a month. Then we can resume.
Bams, you see that they're talking about getting Chuck's parents on as
I see that.
I think that would be hilarious and fun.
That is definitely a thing that might happen.
It has to happen. We have to meet
Okay.
Chuck's parents.
Lovely.
You'll never meet mine, so.
Nope.
Anybody else have anything for Joe's question?
Michael's always doing like the time he just sort of like we were in the middle of I think the Barrens or somewhere, and Michael's like, I'm just gonna go for a walk just to see what happens. Mike does stuff like that.
I mean, it's just it's part of playing the character. You know, if consequences happen, they happen. I'm full. That's how you make the great story. That's how these,
Yep.
you know, the memories, the laughter, the entertainment factor comes into play. If it's all just successes, there's no thrill for me. You know,
Speaking of
you gotta
not
be-
just successes, I'm pretty sure I lost that episode. There was one
That
episode
happens.
that one of the two parts I didn't get the recording for the second part, and I think that was that one.
Oh, really? That was
Yeah.
just too bad.
GM rolled a critical glitch.
Sorry, this was a while
Yeah,
ago, so I'm sorry I get one.
But yeah, I agree. Like, you have to be willing to do the dumb thing, to do the thing that isn't necessarily the smartest thing,
Mhm.
or just do something that your character's not necessarily very good at. Like when Mary Sue said, "Hey, Boz, go. You can just punch that cop out, right? You're an orc." And Boz
Don't
is
all orcs just one punch people out?
and Boz was just like, "Yeah." And I'm looking at my sheet, going, "This is not going to work. This isn't going to work at all. Boz is going to like whiff on this guy." But Boz didn't know. She's a trick shooter, but she's never gotten into a lot of fist fights. So she just figured, yeah, I'll just whack this guy in the back of the head. It'll be like in the movies, in the Trio shows. Just whack him in the back of the head, no problem. So there we go. There's one thing. I found it.
Man, and we all know
We have
Chuck
plenty of
jumps on
questions.
grenades,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, there's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the thing where Chuck is really bad with swords, but he wants to convince everyone that he's going to be great.
yo, I can't wait for you to use that sword that you got.
Yeah.
Right?
That'll
Is
happen.
Chuck actually going to be okay with just like chopping into some dude?
We'll find
Well,
out.
like-
We'll find out. I'm not sure yet.
Will he be one of those? He like does it and then like freaks out, like, "Oh my god, what have I done? There's so much blood."
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's damn Chuck. That was badass, man. Baller mode. Oh man.
The minute he does this, and Michael realizes his obsession with food, the new runner name for Chuck is
Oh,
going
Chuck?
to be the Butcher.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Upchuck.
Oh,
No, no.
Oh.
Hey, he's slicing into a bunch of meat. He has to.
there you go.
It's like the one Chuck joke I've not made. Thank you for finding that.
You
Oh,
also
oh my god.
you didn't make the chunk joke either.
Oh.
The ground?
I did make a ground Chuck. I think I got beaten to the punch on
You,
that one.
you said I think you may have said ground Chuck, but I'm saying chunk
Mhm.
because he was chunky and
Oh,
then
Chunk.
Oh,
Come on,
He missed
ground
it.
Chuck is better.
I
That
like
was-
this.
he missed it that Chuck was an overweight elf. He totally missed it that night.
I
I
know.
like that apathy dude brought this up, and this something I've been thinking for a while. That yes, Chuck is basically a LARPer. That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, so that is my wife on my account talking.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I apologize. Ground Chuck was DPP. It was not RC. I apologize.
Are we talking about the episode? Is that's out, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Okay, that was the best. Like, cause I didn't know how that was gonna go, and so like, it's like, hey, new character, welcome to the show. Oh God, like that was, all right, everybody, new streamer, new.
Nobody has commented on this yet from the people that listen, but I actually went and I found an explosion sound effect for when the grenade goes off, and I put it in the episode, and that's where I
Oh,
ended
wow.
the episode.
Ooh.
Oh, I gotta listen to that one.
That's fancy.
I can go without it.
Oh,
Were you the one giving me crap about not listening to the episodes?
Yes,
Probably.
but I literally can't listen to podcasts. I can
Oh,
only
God.
listen to one right now, and it's only
What-
because
so
less
why
than
do
10
I
minutes
have
and
to?
it's awesome. Because you're home all day?
Oh shit!
damn.
I don't got stuff.
Damn.
Wow. Now, Now I feel like I got to go through a big long explanation of why that's the case. And
Nope.
It's very awkward.
Um,
I just don't recommend anyone try to immigrate into the United States. It's just not a lot of fun. I'll just leave it at that.
Anyway, moving
this
on.
actually kind of feeds into why is RC not more appreciative of Chuck since he saved his life?
I don't understand that question. I take issue with the entire premise. I was deeply impressed and terrified. If you saw somebody get like popped by a grenade and come back as, fucking Lee Majors to make a 30-year-old reference, you wouldn't be like, well, man, I really appreciate what you did. It'd be like, hey, buddy, you okay there? It was a shock,
I'm imagining that people are like, because RC definitely still gives Chuck crap, just like he gives crap to everybody. But I think that's a bit of like, for RC, it's almost an endearment. You know what
it's
I mean?
how he shows his love.
Exactly.
The more shit he gives you, the more he loves you.
Exactly.
I understand. You don't give me any shit, but I understand.
Exactly. I understand more than you know.
You get a lot of elf related shit.
Well, I do get a lot of elf.
Yeah, like
I get a lot of shit. Cop killer
you?
shit. You don't play with the Johnson shit. You're a dandelion eater shit. Yeah. Yep. I get a lot, but that's okay.
At work, like during my free time at work, it's like how to be racist in Shadowrun. Okay, that's a good one.
Well, I think it's funny because like Boz is very like, oh, that's racist about anything regarding trolls and orcs, but people give Els a hard time, and she's just like, yeah, that's funny.
Isn't that funny?
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't it perfect? It's exactly it.
Yeah, no, it's how it works, yeah. Next question.
To finish off, Master Jack, aka Chuck's dad, set of questions. What is RC's dream drone?
That was the one where we had a preview of that question. Bob said that's going to take a half an hour to answer, and I had no idea how to feel about that comment. Like I was afraid to even respond because I was his dream drone would probably some kind of like Swiss Army knife, badass, like fix it all thing. It would be a Swiss Army knife, fix it all plus spider tank. It would be all combined into one. Like it could both destroy and create. So, like a little white workbot drone to come up and like hand him tools, and I think that would be the best thing.
Is it Dummy from Iron Man?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Dummy from Iron Man, but I didn't know that was its name.
I don't know if that's its name. He just calls it a dummy all the time.
The thing that like sprays him with like Kool-Aid or fire suit. Yeah, that's what RC needs. RC needs a bot that's adorable and generally listens to instructions with about 80% accuracy, just enough to trust it, and then it like sprays fire extinguisher in your face.
Awesome. Would Balls consider getting into a new relationship, or is that completely off the table?
I love this question. Nothing is ever completely off the table. Boz, she's obviously still in a relationship, kind of. At least in her mind, she's still married, even though she doesn't have a sin anymore, and she kind of doesn't exist as far as the government's concerned. Like she still feels like there's an element of a relationship that still exists. It's unresolved in her mind. That said, though, I don't think like there's not going to be a lot of people who are going to look at Boz and go, yeah, you know what? That's what I want in a long-term relationship. A sad drunk. That's what I want. So I don't really see it happening necessarily, but it's possible. I'm not against it. Boz has definitely done the sort of like fan herself moment when she saw Scrapper without a shirt on. Like she's not completely immune to the opposite sex, so it could happen if the game goes long enough and Boz changes, I guess, a little bit.
Look, I'm not gonna fake date all of you and be Richard's fake mother. I gotta draw a line somewhere, all right? But that's actually a thing. Like we talked in the long ago about how you wanted to bring the fact that Boss is, married with kids into it because it makes her more interesting than just being the other person on the team that shoots guns.
Yeah, it was always a big part of her character to be like she has kind of an interesting background that doesn't really come up much, partly because the kinds of stuff that we do aren't really related to her background. That might change at some point, but unfortunately, like I wrote a small, like a little short story for Boz that actually explains a lot about what she did, and it never got released. And I was really kind of leaning on that a little bit to get it out there so people had a better idea of what kind of happened.
Remind me to get the link from you, and I'll put it in the. Everybody look and call me on it if I didn't do it, but it'll be in the episode description. You'll click on it there, and you can go read it.
Yeah, that'd be good. It's not long. It's like, I think it's 2 pages long in Google Docs. But yeah, there is some stuff in her background that doesn't come up, partly because she doesn't like to talk about stuff, which was a really dumb decision on my part to make a character who's super private. That's like a primary character trait for her. She doesn't like to talk about stuff. So that has made it difficult to get some of this stuff out. And going to Detroit was a great opportunity to sort of bring that up. Didn't get to deal with it as much as I'd kind of hoped, but I'm thinking like I don't think her story with her husband and her kids is over by any means. I think we'll get back there.
I can't imagine how the guy that takes a deal to make a little bit of extra money for his struggling finances and then has that deal fall through could come back and haunt you.
We shall see.
As a follow-up question to that, sort of, I know we have a bunch of parental units in the chat watching this live, but how do you guys feel about Boz and the whole mom married Detroit situation? Did that seem kind of accurate? As we now wait the awkward couple of seconds for Twitch chat to catch up.
I mean, who wants to go first?
I get some interesting comments on this one. I try to represent a pretty realistic, kind of down to earth, but it's hard, when you're doing it in the moment.
Oh, was that a question out to Twitch? Is that what it is? Oh, my bad.
Yeah. The question was basically, never mind. Wife Chuck said that they had the feels because of it, which is good because, and that's apparently Chuck's mom's next episode. So we'll see what happens. I look forward to more reasonings and answers on that. And if you guys want to send stuff, you can just send it into withoutанetpod@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that Boz gets it so that she can see all of the gross feeling related things there.
No.
Next question from that block is, what is my favorite NPC and why?
Might as well be what's everyone's favorite NPC, because I think it's probably everybody likes the same one. I'm guessing.
Maybe. I'm going to say that I really enjoy being Morgana because I get to be just mean, but it's not actually mean. And the only person that really feels like it's mean is Mary Sue, and she responds in such a way that somebody's going to be like, she is amused by it. Mary Sue said earlier that she doesn't treat her like an equal, and it's because you're not, and she knows that you're not, so she's not going to treat you as an equal to her. So that's that reasoning.
That's how Boz feels too. She doesn't feel like she's an equal to Morgana. Morgana's like a criminal underworld boss, and she's just some jobless lady who's implicated in some crimes. Like, I got nothing. I got nothing.
I see the same idea. He's a blue collar guy. He's used to having someone who was a boss who told him, this is what I want done. Make it happen.
What are the rest of you guys? Excuse me. What are the rest of you guys' favorite NPCs?
Mama.
Oh, Mama's a good choice. I wish she was in it more. But it's Scrapper. I like Scrapper a lot. I like Scrapper because you can actually... He's like, I think, the only NPC that we can really have a conversation and interact with on like a personal level. Like every other relationship that we have with NPCs is like it's weird in some fashion or other. Like RC and his mom, she's almost like, oh god, this is going back a bit. But if you remember, like the Tim the Toolman show, she's almost like the guy next door looking over the fence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Fair enough. She's not as fleshed out. We don't know Mama's hopes, dreams, fears. We know her fears, insecurities, and whatnot. and Scrapper is a lot more fleshed out character. So I'll give you that. I just like making Bamps make that voice while also trying to figure out how to avoid it happening to me. It's a combination.
She's hilarious. Every time she comes up, I'm like sitting here dying laughing. I love her so much.
It's great because she's a negative quality, so that I can just bring her up and be annoying whenever it strikes me. And I have a feeling, because Omni asked a question about that we might have some questions about that, or we might have her popping back up sometime in the near future.
I also really like Morgana. She's probably my second favorite. I think she's a really well played character. Just her position, the power that she kind of represents. I think she holds herself very well. She doesn't back down, and I appreciate that in NPC. I do think she could be meaner, but I'm also starting to wonder if there's a reason that she hasn't fully reciprocated our ability to be a pain in the ass. That might come up. We'll see.
We'll see. I'm a big fan of foreshadowing, so.
I did notice something in one of the episodes that I wish I hadn't heard. Something that we didn't hear.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, I heard it.
Oh, wow.
You can hit me on Discord and see if it's the thing I'm thinking of.
I mean, I'm probably wrong. Well, yeah, it's probably the thing you're thinking of, because there's only like one major thing that we haven't heard, right? I think.
So,
like as part of the sessions.
In addition to you guys having downtime, some of the NPCs have downtime things.
Yeah.
Like the most recent episode, I put in a downtime thing between Valentine and Scrapper because you guys left him sit there on an airfield together.
Oh.
So they had an interaction.
So, in your opinion, as like players, like there's obviously some information here that we shouldn't have as like our characters don't have. How do you feel about like do you care if we know that stuff?
Mary Sue touched on it earlier, but I trust you guys. If you guys are also listening to it, you guys out of character get this information, I trust that your characters will behave as they would any other way. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I have no fears. I'm not going to say it because some people like to find that shit out in the moment, and it will probably come out at some point, but who knows when that will be.
I'm pretty excited.
Well, now I'll figure it out. I'm gonna have to like.
I will. I guess I could tell you later. I guess
we can talk about it later.
Sure.
Mary Sue, what was your favorite NPC, or also Michael? Because I don't think we got clear answers from you guys.
Say Howard
or Chuck.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. Or Mary Sue, you want to go first? Because you were after me, or.
Go ahead.
Just shout it out.
So it's a tough choice between Scrapper and Mama. Mama I like because she's just funny, and it's just a fun time whenever she's on. And then Scrapper just because he seems almost like a dad to the group.
Yeah.
Right, and it's just like I'm trying to think of the words.
Dad.
Where it's like, you've grown up now, so you're free to do your own thing, but I'm here if you need help, sort of thing. And I just like the relationships that are there with that.
Boz is always leaving her bike at Scrapper's yard.
Right. Yeah.
Mary C.
Well, I'll name one that hasn't been named yet. The doctor that Val was going to.
Oh yeah.
He was just so creepy and so off-putting.
I'm sad that he's not in it. I'm hoping there's a reason.
But he was a good one.
You still have his contact information if you have the need.
Yeah.
Which was great because Boss was like, let's take Chuck to this actual dock wagon good doctor.
Yeah.
Mercy's like, he's creepy.
No, he was creepy. I didn't like him. He gave her Capri Suns full of who knows what.
Blood.
They were just blood bags.
No.
How else are you
He's
going to
a ghoul. That's ghoulish. No.
Oh my god.
I wasn't going to take Chuck there.
I mean,
Maybe Chuck's health insurance may have covered it if you took him to that doctor.
yeah.
Well, maybe Chuck shouldn't go jumping on grenades.
Okay.
Well, I mean, let's not be pedantic here.
Okay.
Yeah, there was there were a series of bad decisions. You can accept that and move on.
There you go.
Michael, do you have a favorite NPC?
I actually really do enjoy Morgana.
Yay.
And then the other person that I do enjoy is for completely other reasons, and that is Howard. Mainly for the fact of he started off innocent enough, and just because of character paranoia, it spiraled like to the stratosphere, and to the point to where 6 months later, this guy is still an issue. This guy is still a thorn. You could go, any one of us, me, Boz, Chuck, Mary Sue, could go, hey, isn't that Howard? And RC will show up out of nowhere with all of his drones just to try to get some innocent bystander who looks nothing like Chuck.
Howard.
Or, excuse me, nothing like Howard. And he would go nuts over it. So it's having that much of an impact when originally it was just a guy trying to do his job and to a asshole supervisor.
His frustration was
happens.
palpable. Like every time he was in
was.
the scene, I was just like, RC, you jerk.
So to pull back a little bit of the veil here, back when we did the prologue, which is where Howard came up, I asked each of the characters what is a thing that their character has been asking for from, say, human resources to help them at work that human resources is using as leverage to get them to do this job. Because that's how that first shadow run in the prologue was built. It's like, you're going to help human resources with this project, and in exchange, human resources is going to do whatever it was for you. In Mary Sue's case, it was a big letter of recommendation to college. Balls was to actually do some work and get back out in the field instead of being stuck at a desk.
Mm-hmm.
Valerie was to get set up for to be able to walk again, because she had been put in for insurance claims to get the appropriate cybernetic surgery and stuff to be able to walk. But because she is a Matrix person, it wasn't deemed necessary for her job. So they just kind of pushed it off and just kind of let it go. Richard wanted some help. He wanted another person to be an assistant and work with him and that kind of thing. And then they did the job or the project, and he got Howard. And then he treated him like garbage, and it was wonderful.
How did you see that going? Like when you brought Howard in, did you know how that was going to go?
No.
You asked for it, though. Like, you literally asked for it.
Yeah, but I forgot that because I have a bad memory, so then I hated him. Like, I'm what can I say? I'm so changeable.
Mercurial, I think, is the word you're looking for.
Indeed, I'm not mercurial. I was mixing it up.
I wouldn't be surprised if Richard's asking for an assistant and help was supposed to be subtitled with a human assistant.
Oh, maybe.
Because
Howard was an elf.
He was an elf.
That probably played a big part in it, I bet. I never really thought of that, actually.
Might have.
Like, hey, I'm Howard. He's like, you're Howard? Yeah, what's wrong? I thought you'd be taller.
Less pointy eaters.
Oh, less tall. Yeah.
Her name is Howard for an elf.
So the best part about the Howard situation is he is not the only Shadowrunner that was responsible for the situation you guys find yourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it was a team, but we only really got to interact with Howard unless we missed a lot. Which I guess is possible. I mean,
there was at least one other person that you can probably guess.
I think I know.
Oh,
I know who it is.
Yeah. But as I mentioned,
we will never know unless someone remembers something. But yeah.
You trust me, right? One of the things we talked about when you stepped away, Richard, was that I will give you Howard. now that Michael is back, now that we have everybody here, because I wasn't gonna, and I believe I told you this over the course of the time that Michael was away, that I'm not going to give them to you while Michael's not here, because it's not, it would just be weird from a storytelling perspective. But
It was a group effort.
Yep.
Mike should be here.
You
I
will
was gonna-
you
I was
will
gonna
get him
say-
soon.
I just realized that like our face got faced real bad.
It's so good that you just realized that a year later.
Our face wasn't a real face at that point.
Some might
You
argue
had the
she's still not.
stat.
Okay.
Aw,
What'd you do?
that was that was mean.
Don't listen to him.
You're a good face, Mary Sue, even if you make enemies out of our contacts.
And resort to jail rounds.
she's Mary Sue like keeps coming up in fights and being like, yeah, I wasn't really designed to fight, but I'm gonna kick some ass, and it's great.
Like on the
I
train.
love it. Like on the
Yeah.
train, just like single-handedly took care
I
of that.
felt like such a badass on that train.
There were so many
roll
squeals.
So well. Can
There
we
were so many
address
squeals.
that? Can we address the fact that
What?
Mary Sue has like enchanted dice, like rolling like 60-70% successes on like all of your rolls? It's crazy.
It's amazing.
I always roll really badly, so give me my dice back.
I can't help it. Bams's table loves me.
I do like how our face like gives it one social roll. That doesn't work. It's like, well, some men you just can't reach. Rack slide.
I do. I pulled my gun twice
And you shot security people.
in a year. In a year. It's not like I just go around shooting people up.
All right, so I'm going to move on to something else. Two Jacks, new superfan, asked, what is Chuck's field of study? I'm going to skip that question because in the next episode coming out next week, it's the Chuck and Mary Sue totally not date going back to Mary Sue's apartment.
Ah.
And they have all kinds of conversations involving answering a bunch of that stuff. So I'm just going to skip that one. What has been happening to Val since she left? Yes, I know it probably won't ever become important since her player had real life issues, but I really liked Val.
We all really liked Val, and we're sad that she's gone.
Yeah, life sucks and is terrible, but it happens sometimes. On a show level going forward, it's one of those things, I don't want to say shunned, because that's very negative, but it's like, it's difficult to address from an in-character thing to not bring up, so we just kind of don't. Because as players, and as hopefully as listeners, realizing that this is a game, and most of us listening to this kind of thing have been in games themselves, and when somebody new joins or somebody new leaves, it's awkward. So we're just avoiding that awkwardness in a very teenage way of just avoiding it completely.
I didn't want to avoid it, but I was outvoted.
Don't worry, you would have been cut in the editing anyway, so. So it's just, I have the philosophy that anything that is not stated in the narrative is in a fluid state. So if in this situation does ever happen where she can come back and wants to come back, we don't have to shoehorn in anything that has been said because nothing has been said. She can come back and she can tell us what she has been up to. This follows up on a little bit of Chris V's question of, I'm not sure of your story's time in the current Shadowrun continuum, and I know that you're not opti when it comes to Shadowrun lore, but is there a plan for the story of Martin DeVries, who makes an appearance in the Shadowrun novel Terminus Experiment, and elsewhere in Shadowrun lore, to affect Val's education, because he's a public vampire kind of figure, if memory serves. I am terrible when it comes to lore, so I try to avoid it whenever necessary, like not bringing up named characters and stuff. But the idea that I had when she asked Morgana for assistance with her situation, I was going to give her an NPC contact. And have you guys ever watched True Blood?
I have, yeah. Can't say I loved it, but I watched it for some reason.
I shouldn't say I loved. I enjoyed the first 3 episodes, or more appropriately, not episodes. I'm sorry, seasons. More appropriately,
Yeah.
seasons 1 and 3.
Yeah, I mean the first 2 seasons were bad. That's fair.
But in the first season, there's a character, Vampire Eddie. He's a balding, overweight guy who happens to be a vampire because he was a homosexual and he would go to clubs to try and meet people. And in this universe, vampires had, air quotes, come out of the coffin, their words, not mine, because they are able to sustain on synthetic blood. So it's like, hey, we want to be treated like people and that kind of stuff. So Eddie, while he was a human, is at this club and sees a vampire there that's getting all kinds of attention because vampires are sexy and vampires this and vampires that. So he gets a bunch of money, pays some vampire to turn him into a vampire because he's like, I want that life. I want to be popular. I want to be attractive. I want to be desired and all of that stuff. But he becomes a vampire who is overweight and balding and just like a miserable guy. True, as I Google him. But in the end, like, he was just a really nice dude, but kind of screwed over. Ends up being used for people would use vampire blood as a drug. So that's how he ended up dying. And
I remember that.
yeah, it was sucked because Vampire Eddie was just a nice guy. So I was going to introduce an NPC like that. He was probably going to be some not stereotypically attractive person who uses physical mask almost all the time to make himself look like a physically attractive and desirable person, but was also a vampire to kind of help bring her into that fold. And wherever that went, we'll see. But thankfully, that is not officially canon because it wasn't said on the show. So there.
Okay.
Man, that got sad. And then to answer Chuchak's last question is, what was Scrapper's Arthurian nickname? So you guys have met Morgana. You guys have met Lady. And there's a Galahad out there that you guys have met but don't know who is.
It's Howard, isn't it?
Going back on what I just said about how everything is fluid until it's stated, at current, Scrapper doesn't have one. He is not, at current, involved in that.
Everyone has respected Scrapper's backstory. And just leave him alone.
Speaking of which, Ziggy the Troll is actually going to do a small thing where he talks about Scrapper a little bit as a crossover. I'll probably put a link to his show in the notes and stuff. Chris V asked, knowing that oftentimes Southern families have extended families, are any more of RC's relatives going to make an appearance? We talked a little bit one time, Richard, remember?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember. Is he a brother or a cousin or some shit? I can't remember.
I don't think we ever really decided on what kind of family members Mama has. But part of the reason that Richard is up in Seattle is he got kind of chased out, good old boy style of the South, right?
Indeed. Things happened.
So clearly that has to be addressed. Like, we went to Detroit for Boz. We're going to get into some of the details of what Michael got involved in when you guys aren't in the middle of a run. So it wouldn't be fair if I didn't bring up Richard's family and why he's in Seattle. So sometime in the semi-near future, we'll talk about your family and why you and probably the whole crew need to go back down south.
Oh God.
I am so, like, I don't want to rush anything, but yes. Like, I will say, I mean, if you can't tell from the sound of my voice, I hail from the southeastern part of the great United States.
What?
And
Really?
right? And,
Oh my God. What a shocker.
And so there's this game called Shadowrun, and I'm learning about it years ago in college. And it's like, well, here's a map of the world. The Confederacy won. Tell me more. Like, this is interesting. You've got my attention. And so it's a bunch of rednecks. They all have. It's all like the future cyberpunk rednecks who have their own crazy state, and they have like the cops on. Like they're the people who like Lone Star. It's from until KE wouldn't jack the game up. Wasn't that perfect? Hire a bunch of redneck Southern Texans to be your police force. Like this is great.
Remember how we had to talk you into putting the Confederate flag on the roof of your van?
That was mostly you. I feel like it's like is this the royal we? Like what? You are Canadian. That could be a thing. I called the Queen. She said it wasn't cricket, so you can't do it.
From Twitch chat, Omni asked, admit it, you didn't think Scrapper would resonate with us as much as he did. I'm not sure what you meant, if you meant in the way that he had like the Arthurian name, or if he had was involved with Morgana on that level. I'm not sure what you mean, so if you want to elaborate on that for me.
I mean, for us, as soon as Scrapper came up, he was sort of a favorite. I liked him as the moment we talked to him. I liked the voice that Vamps gave him, and from there it was just all good. So, I mean, he resonated with us for sure.
I didn't like Scrapper at first. I really didn't.
Really?
It was he seemed really like gruff and reserved and kind of
like, very like
yes. I mean, it was kind of a theme of people who are gruff and reserved and not talking. I'm like, I wish And Babs loves you. You can't do the best like Cajun. I don't know what accent was trying to happen there, but it took some time. The character got fleshed out. The cooking thing, having the dogs, it was a bit slower. So
right, I have to amend my favorite NPC thing from earlier because obviously it's the Hellhounds. Like obviously.
That's where you're going there. It did. I mean, I'm just being honest. That NPC, I was like, oh, I'm not really digging this. But then it went on, and I appreciate this character more, and it seemed to be a more interesting character, and it just took some time for him to get fleshed out, I think, for me.
Yeah, and it's just like people you meet at work, right? They don't drop their backstory on you. It's like, hi, my name's Richard. Hi, I'm Howard. I'm here to Shadowrun you and drive your life into the dirt. What you call it? Omni followed up with, yeah, like he was an NPC that you thought about, but everyone latched onto immediately. And anytime that you have an NPC that people dig, you boost them. So one of the things we talked about back in the prologue and the getting started was that, okay, you guys are going to get into the shadows and you're going to need a fixer. So who do we want that to be? And it started off originally being the human resources lady that gave him that first job, Doris. Maybe she knows a bunch of people and had a way to make everything all right. And then she would also be a fixer that was getting new to the shadows as well. So they would grow together as a team. But that got kicked in the head because they didn't go to Doris and they actually thought she was in on it, on screwing them over and snooped out her house and her apartment. And it was a thing. They also, in Richard's paranoia, stumbled upon Scrapper's scrapyard and had a interesting phone call conversation where he got the idea that Scrapper was kind of shady. It's like, okay. And that is where they ended up going on the oh shit, we're in trouble moment. They're like, let's go to the scrapyard. He was a shady guy. He knows other shady guys. We'll get this figured out. They could have tried to go to Doris and it would have been different things. There was another character that could have very potentially became their fixer, but they didn't go to him.
You got to keep your options open. If the characters decide to do something, you got to run with it a little bit. Can't push them towards the character you kind of planned ahead on, right?
This is why I don't plan anything.
And I mean, like it was pretty obvious from the start that. Well, I guess apart from RC, that we all kind of we all liked Scrapper to some extent, and I mean, it made sense to keep him around. He was sort of there, like everyone else from before, from Paradynamics was kind of burned because we didn't know who to trust. we felt kind of screwed over by everybody there, and Scrapper was the only thing kind of left to latch onto. So of course he's stuck around. I mean, it was just bound to happen.
Right, but you guys all have contacts on your sheets that haven't come up in the show yet. I think what I was trying to get at is whoever was going to, you guys were going to end up going to in those moments was going to become your first shadowy connection.
Actually, as I recall, Mary Sue tried to contact her PhD biologist friend.
And it threw the comlink out the window.
Threw Michael's comlink out the window. And everyone was like, what, why?
Poor Mary Sue, all frustrated and stuff.
That was very funny.
It happens.
Next Christmas, I'm getting a comlink and a bunch of gel rounds, put them in a box to give to Mary.
To drag you guys back into it a little bit, what would each of you say was the weakest part of the show so far, and why?
I've actually thought a little about this because I really like the show a lot. I've listened to enough of the episodes to sort of appreciate what in particular what Bamps is sort of doing with it. The only thing I can really think of is early on we did a lot of like scene description, and that's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit. We lean a lot on just character interactions, which is great. I mean, it's been really good. I think we do a really good job with it. But I think I like on a personal level, when I'm playing games, or when I'm GMing, or if I'm playing a game, I lean on just like scene descriptions an awful lot, and I really find them very evocative, and they make it easier to role play. I think we could probably do better at that. Just describing the spaces that we're in.
You guys are always welcome to add things to scenes.
Yeah, and we do some of that. Like when we got to the hotel. I guess we can't talk about it. Never mind. That was more recent than I remembered.
You guys spend a lot of time in hotels, so.
It's true. When we sort of decide like what the hotel room's like between the group of us, but yeah. That's all I got, which is a really minor thing, I guess. It's sort of a difficult question to ask us because they're like asking us to be critical of ourselves, which is always difficult.
You're saying we should, like describing our like physical environments more?
Yeah, like sort of setting a scene before we start role playing in the scene.
Okay.
Sometimes we're just like, oh, we're in this space, let's start talking. And I feel like we could probably like set a scene, give some nice atmosphere. What's the weather like? I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of Critical Role lately, and they do a lot of that. Like Matt Mercer is an excellent GM, and he's very evocative with his scene descriptions. And I wish we could do more of that.
Point out that they're a bunch of cheaters because they're all professional voice actors.
Well, Matt Mercer's not a professional GM though. He's just I guess he might be.
He's been doing it for long enough. Yeah, he could be.
He's actually, I think at this point, like he does make money by GMing, so I guess he kind of is. But it's like, yeah, the scene description is something that I do a lot when I've been GMing myself. I really enjoy it.
Sure, it's something for us to work on.
Sure.
Who you want to?
Motorcycle. That's my answer. The motorcycle.
What?
Oh, the motorcycle run.
Yeah.
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 The first job you guys did for Scrapper.
Oh, yeah. There was sort of a bit of a thing there that probably got lost in the editing table, right?
Probably. I can't be shown to have any weaknesses or fallacies, so I clearly removed all of that. To follow up on what Richard was saying is there was some discontent between players and GM as to the situation, and I was in the wrong. I was 100% expecting something, and I stonewalled on something I shouldn't have. And I believe
we ran at a lead, basically.
Yeah, you guys were doing an investigation, and I just stopped one of your lines of inquiry because I was expecting another line of inquiry to keep going, and then it didn't. But even if that other line of inquiry kept going, I should have not stopped the other one.
Yeah.
I made a giant mistake. Richard and I sat down and talked about it, and we fixed it.
We went outside, we fought, we shook hands. We came back inside and cranked this goddamn show out.
I get to be Vegeta. He can be Goku.
So for that one there, the part I didn't like is I listened to one of your GM videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it's you. So I'm like, oh, I know what happens, because you
Yeah.
explain it, step by step. So I was a little upset about that when I was listening.
Sorry. Who else has their?
Oh, I have something that I'm actually a little upset about personally
Uh-oh.
that I've
Uh-oh.
done. Uh-oh.
No.
So I actually don't like how Chuck jumped on the grenade for RC. In my head, it was supposed to be for Mary Sue. And I don't like that because it feels off that he would do that for RC. He
Wasn't
might do
Mary
it for
Sue there?
Sue.
She was there,
but
and
she was
Go ahead.
outside.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Mary Sue was outside. Chuck had to run back in and jumped on it for RC. So I'm personally not a fan of how that turned out a little bit. I would have liked it a little different.
I thought the reasoning was he would still impress her because he saved one of her friends.
Yeah, that's the thing I made up in, 10 seconds.
Wasn't
Just as a
that good enough?
fluke.
Isn't that a good enough reason?
It'll do, but
Well,
something
that's-
I'm trying to say
So
what I'm
the
not
answer
happy
is
with.
no.
no. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm sure you can nearly kill yourself for Mary Sue at some near future.
Sure thing, I'll do that.
Okay.
Oh man. I just give that side eye to boss about that thing I talked about the other day.
What are you thinking of?
I'll talk to you about it later because it'll be fun.
Okay. All right.
I said too
was-
much.
It was definitely an adjustment for me because I've never GM'd and I don't have a great deal of experience as a player, and so the only thing I would say that I felt a little intimidated sometimes in the show because it was more talky than even I had anticipated, and that was never a thing that I had been a giant part of. And I was playing a character that was a large bit of my own cut and jib and whatnot, and everyone else is like really going out there and doing exploratory shit or exploratory stuff, and I'm like, man, I feel kind of like AAA over here, as opposed to like major MLB. All for all the Canadians who are in this chat list.
Oh, we're losing you a little bit.
Figures he cuts out at the point up to where he starts going into about Canadians. That's the only time
Yeah.
he comes in.
Right?
Yeah, Justin Trudeau
amazing.
just like turns that dial down, and I go. I was saying like everybody else had characters that were I felt just somewhat more interesting, frankly, than RC was, and so I came in and they also seemed to be very comfortable in a game that was a lot more about character talk, character development and conversations as opposed to doing, going out and doing the thing. I don't know. I felt it took some time for me to kind of feel like I was, on that level. But I think I got there.
Work. Yeah, you made it work pretty fast, I think.
One of the things we talked about when we had that conversation, if my memory serves, was you wanted to sit down and do some shadow runs, and it's like, yeah, we should probably get to some actual crime and doing some crime.
So my favorite part is actually when we're not doing crime.
I enjoy the interactions the most. Yeah, I mean, I miss crime sometimes when it's been a while, but really, like I think the heart of the show is in the character interactions. So
It's pulled me over. I think I had to adjust to it, and I'm sort of like got there now, and I guess I get it more. I feel like I do, maybe So
When
I feel like where we're at.
being able to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
When we were sitting down for the audition game and talking with the applicants, when you came back, Richard, saying about the role play and stuff, I was like, this is going to be great, because we had that conversation back around the bike job about how the game was going and shadow running and stuff like that. And I know we've talked at least one other time just to kind of check in. Number 2 thing I always talk about is communication. Number 1 being trust. Just to see where I wanted to see where your head was at after that point. And yeah, you were talking about the role play and that kind of stuff, and I was like, man, I don't know if he's just blowing smoke to make the show sound great or if he's really turned around on it a bit. But
Come a long way.
Where was it? I mean, yeah. To be look, say what you want about me. I don't tend to bullshit you, right?
Right. And you're not the only one. I had a conversation with Boz one time about getting her to show how badass she is, because she's the combat character, and you guys have been avoiding combat because you guys are a bunch of wage slaves that are like, oh shit, what do I do? Your instinct is not pull a gun and murder a man.
Yeah.
Until very recently.
Buzz, yeah, because everyone sort of had stuff to roll for a long time, and Buzz didn't so much because she's a very specific kind of character, and she does have some interesting side stuff, but the side stuff is also stuff that largely hasn't come up. So yeah, there was a conversation about that.
Your drug adventure is the episode after is going to be episode 33, so not this week, but next week. So that'll be fun.
That will be fun. I'm looking forward to that. I can't talk about it.
Nope. Sorry. Michael, what do you think the weakest part of the show is so far, and why?
For me, that's a hard thing to come up with because I enjoy the show a lot. I mean, it's us all
gotta pick something.
Having fun. If anything else, if I were to say anything else, I would say that it would have to be the some of the unfamiliarity with some of the other rules that come into play of what dice we all need to roll or in that manner. Because I mean, sometimes it slows things down a little, but in other times it's like
you must not have listened to
your rule.
You must not listen too much to the finished stuff as opposed to the raw stuff that I was giving you.
No, because I couldn't access the podcast. I had to access just
the YouTube recordings,
the YouTube stuff. Yeah.
So all of that rules talk, gone. Yeah. It all gets removed.
No. Okay. Well, that's in my opinion, as far as the game goes. Not talking about the final product because if I remember right, doesn't Patreon have access to the?
They sure do.
So
at the $3 level, you get access to all of the rules talk, all of the tangents, all of Richard's terrible witticisms that aren't very witty.
No.
And his casual Shadowrun racism.
Yeah. You know what? Everyone Shadowrun. Most people play these characters which are, other side of the tracks, and they're all, that's different. I've never seen that actually in the game. The racism has always come from the NPCs, but all the characters themselves, despite being, ready to kill someone for $2, they're all quite progressive. And I thought, it's a motley crew of people who, like, if you went in there and said something about Daisy Eaters, you'd be like, whoa, brother. Before we go out and kill all this church group, let's get one damn thing straight.
Well, RC, thanks for jumping on that grenade for us.
Exactly, I'm here for you.
Who else hasn't answered this question? Besides me, because I don't count.
I don't think Mary Sue has.
Yeah, Mary Sue, what's your weakest point?
The weakest point about the show has nothing to do with the show itself. I think it has to do with
I feel like you're gonna take my answer.
A lack of promotion of the show.
Fuck.
Well, now you just don't have to do it, I guess.
I think it's good. I think people enjoy it, but I think it's not promoted as much as it could be to gain more listeners. That's all.
That's probably true. It's not like just nothing. There's a Twitter account. There's a Facebook.
Do you know how many posts I made on the Twitter account?
Every release day, there's a post on the Twitter account.
Because it's automated.
Yep.
Yeah. You could. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice.
If somebody wants to jump up,
put Mary Sue in charge of some stuff.
She's already.
I am in charge of Facebook.
I don't go to that hell site.
See?
Well, there you go. So if you're the Twitter person, then you Twitter. Nobody wants to do it. I see. Okay.
I'm to the extent that I am like Boz. Do you really want me in charge of the Twitter? I don't know. Social media.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to make in-character Twitter accounts, that'd be hilarious.
That'd be awful.
That would be fun. Yes.
Awful.
that was gonna be my answer as well, because we were talking about this a little bit before we went live, but when Mary Sue twisted my arm into making the show, I went forward with the idea that I am going to make the show that I would want to listen to. Which is why, in the beginning, the only thing you get is a little bit of theme music, which I was nice enough to have a guy, Michael Vadimikis, his stuff's in the show notes, make for us for free, which is awesome. There's a little bit of an intro / recap, because that's what people have asked for, and then we go right into the show. I don't want to start off with this episode sponsored by blah 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 blah. I don't, because when I listen to podcasts, I will pull out my phone and I will tap the forward 15 seconds button a couple of times to go past that shit. Because I don't want to.
Someone gets paid so that you can, it's a small price to pay.
I understand, but I don't want to listen to it, so I skip past it. That's why.
No, I get you.
That's why
I'm kind of the same way. I find self-promotion really awkward and unpleasant. So.
That's why at the end we go into the theme music, so that everybody who wants to stop listening can go ahead and stop listening. And I play the theme music in its entirety at the end, because Michael did an awesome job when he made it. So.
Yeah, that song is super good. I like it a lot.
I don't want to be the guy that's talking over it all of the time. I want you guys to be able to hear it in its entirety. And then I tossed in the bloopers at the end, because some of the stuff is funny, but because it doesn't fit the theme or the situation in the episode, or it's a long tangent, I'll just move it to the end so people can still enjoy RC being as funny as he thinks he is.
On the off chance that we ever do get sponsors, that would be a good spot to put it. Play the music, do a sponsor, and if people want to listen to the stuff, like bloopers at the end, then they can, kind of thing. But I don't think that's in the cards for any time in the near future.
I also am the kind of person who hates it when they go comment and subscribe. Tell your friends. That being said, if you guys should want to tell your friends, Michael set a pretty high bar when he got his ship listening to the show. But you guys are great. You guys being the fans in this case, because everything that I have ever heard about the show has always just been positive, and that's crazy and overwhelming and warms my cold black heart.
Oh.
Yeah. Would you change an aspect of your character / NPCs if you had the opportunity to go back in time and do the show again?
I probably wouldn't make Boz again. I'd probably I very much like to try new things. If I could go back and try something different, it would be a totally different character. But I will say, I've already brought this up a lot, but Boz, my decision to make Boz a very private character has made her really hard to make personable, and for me that's okay, because I already know a lot about Boz's history and what she's like, but it's been difficult to get that across in the game and still feel like it's in character. Someone actually in the chat mentioned she should just get chatty when she's drunk, and I think I might do that. I think I might take that and run with it.
I'll let you know that when you had that 2 or 3 minute talk about talking to your mom, I didn't edit any of that. I didn't edit any of that. I just left it as you did, because it's this shit's important.
Yeah, I listened to that. I was curious. I don't know how obvious it is, but I definitely planned what I wanted to say ahead of time. I didn't just run with it.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be a sort of a powerful moment. I knew that Boz has had some missed opportunities to become a little more alive as a character. I didn't want to miss this one, so I decided to use it to the best of my ability. And I thought it came out pretty well. It wasn't quite as emotive as I thought it was when I was doing it.
If I was not a lazy person, I should have totally put some raindrop sounds in the background.
Oh, that would have been really good.
Yeah, but I'm already really bad at editing, but
anyway, that's me anyway.
Sure, you get to tag somebody now.
I gotta go with Mary Sue.
Would I change anything if I went back to recreate Mary Sue? No. I love Mary Sue. I love her. I love her obliviousness. I love her naivete. I love how she handles situations. I wouldn't change anything. If gun to my head, I think I would make her more inept. I think I would have not have specialized her so much.
She's very good at what she does.
She's very good. So I think, yeah, I would have made her a little more inept.
Would you still have like had her get together with Valentine?
Yeah, because part of the character goals and player goals, well, part of the player goals that we had discussed, Vance and I, the Valentine relationship is a vehicle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and it's fun. I enjoy fake dating, my GM. It's fun.
You get to pick somebody.
Let's go with Michael.
No, there's no way I would change anything about what I'm doing with Michael. I'm having too much fun with him, and I mean, I'll start one way, and then we'll just roll with it to see how the character development goes. And once something becomes enough of a thing with me as a character, then it's just going to stick. It's going to keep going. And then I'm going to tag RC.
Okay. There, early on, I hope I have been consistent with the character. Early on, RC was very paranoid, and I think that was the situation he was in.
To be fair, he was right.
Yeah, and at some point I kind of like morphed the character a bit over. I think after the first job, a bit towards oh Christ, who's the actor from Eastbound and Down whose name escapes me at this particular moment? Danny McBride. I kind of went like a more Danny McBride direction, and I hope it has made sense if I've kind of gone away from that, or if it's within the wheelhouse, if it's not jarring. I don't want it to be like, this week it's Danny McBride version, and next week it's old school RC. I hope it all seems cohesive. I hope no one ever came on and was like, this character's all over the map and inconsistent. Like, that bugs me. So maybe if I was going to change something, I would have, written it down and put a post-it on my screen and been like, do this thing, just do it, and do it every time.
I feel like you've been consistent.
Right.
I think, like, from my perspective, is that RC just sort of needed to get out of a situation, and once he was out of that situation, he sort of became himself again. Sort of how I felt about it.
There was definitely a small moment of, I'm living large with a giant fat wad of Nuyen in my pocket, and
yeah, I kind of wanted to do that, and then like maybe come away from it. Like, yeah, I'm living large. I'm the blue collar guy who just won the lottery. Time to get stupid, and then like have a few weeks of okay, that was dumb. Get back to my roots.
Yeah.
The white suit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck, I think, is the last one, which is tough because Chuck's pretty new already. So, have you already realized you screwed up?
Yeah, actually, there's a few things I would.
Oh, wow.
So, I think it's something that happens in the next episode that comes up. I play him a little too naive at the start, I find, which I'm not a big fan of. I would have made him a little bit more obvious. Like, he's driving through the Barrens, and he's like, oh, I don't notice anything that we're in a shady place.
That is the next episode that's coming up.
Yeah, so that I found I didn't like.
I thought it was kind of endearing.
Yeah, I wanted to have some naivety, but not to the point of, hey, we're literally in the Barrens. There's guns being fired in the background. You can hear, half a kilometer away.
I just think Mary Sue turned the volume on the radio up real loud so you couldn't hear it.
And the other thing is he has other nerdy hobbies that I haven't brought up yet in game, so I want to bring those up.
Oh, we can totally talk
about
that.
And I think I should have maybe brought them up a little earlier. So, right.
I know that feeling. I've gone like a year of real life time without talking about Boz's history and what she's actually like good at and what she used to do for the company. I don't think it's ever come up. So yeah,
I described balls because
get it up there.
somebody asked one time about what did she do for the company. I think it was Two Jacks. And I posted the link, or I posted the picture of the guy from Office Space with the stapler, and that you were just kind of stuck down in some cubicle, just being on the payroll. You know,
she was like data entry or something like super
mundane.
Just like,
but
put them on a shelf and forget about them kind of thing.
You were a magical asset, so you are expensive to acquire. But since they had you, they didn't want to just let you go because you have access to magic.
Yeah. She was an asset, but they didn't know what to do with her, and she kind of got lost in the system. But that wasn't what she was at the company to do. Like there was a whole thing before that. Like she was in that cubicle for a reason, and the reason never really came up. But I think we're going to, hopefully, I know that we've talked about this on several occasions, but at some point in the future, it's going to be real obvious what Boz used to do for the company, and I hope we get to that at some point before we're doing another anniversary.
We'll see. For me, I get to cheat. I mentioned earlier at the beginning, we're about 2 months, 6 weeks or so from the last recording or the last session that we played. So all of the little things I do with the NPCs that do stuff during downtime, it's because I already know what the PCs are doing, so I can make stuff up. That makes it kind of like fit into the story. I don't want to mention specifics because some of that stuff is not released yet.
It's kind of like exposition, sort of.
Yeah, because like in a lot of other actual plays, you don't know what the NPCs are up to. And you guys are kind of close to a lot of the NPCs from, I guess, a comparison level of like this actual play to other actual plays. So I want to keep that there, and I want to keep the listeners involved in some of the other stuff that's coming around, like how Morgana finds out some information about the katanas that you guys stole, and as such, she decides to give them back to you. If we had just gone with the part that you guys saw, where she's just like, here you go, have these swords, which had nothing to do with Chuck losing his sword, it had everything to do with all of the baggage associated with that sword, the people out there listening wouldn't have any anticipation about when those things are going to be resolved. And I think she told you. So, like, there's a Yakuza guy out there looking for those swords who's going to want them back. And
yep.
Sooner or later, he's going to kind of come across you guys.
Do you... I guess this is a question for me, but do you keep like a file full of stuff that's unresolved, just like things that you can look back? I knew you were gonna say no.
You should just lie, like, yes, I have it all planned out. There's spreadsheets involved.
Well, I'm not talking about planning. I'm just like because there have been threads that have been left behind. Some of them very old. You seem to remember like most of them. I can't think of any that you haven't mentioned. But
so many years ago in my teenage years, I don't remember this, but my brother and friends from that era will tell me we were out shoveling snow like jackasses, and I took a snow shovel to the back of the head. And I don't remember this. I don't remember a lot of my like, how many of your elementary school teachers' names do you remember?
A few.
Really?
I don't remember any.
Yeah, like none.
How about middle school?
Two.
None.
Wow.
Only a handful of my high school teachers. I find
I don't
that
remember.
What's that?
I don't remember any of my teachers' names.
You're old.
At all. Oh. All right. I'm going to go back to mute.
Thanks.
I'm like 34. I remember some. I actually don't remember. I don't remember any of my high school teacher names, but I remember like elementary. I was kind of like a good student though when I was young, and then I didn't care in high school, so that probably explains why.
I find that stuff that I don't write down kind of just percolates and sits in there, and sometimes I'll have an idea baby as two ideas rub against each other. Sounds gross, I know.
So gross.
I'm trying to think of what one of those idea babies was that came up during the show, but I can't remember off the top of my head, like a specific one that's not that kind of stuff. So I don't write any of this down because when I write it down, it comes out of my head. Like I have a run that I needed to wait for Michael to come back that I wanted to send you guys on. That wasn't the Howard thing that I wrote down, so I stopped thinking about it. But I have the details that I was thinking about written down.
It's real messed up, Ames.
Yeah, no, I'll just be at work, and then an idea baby will be born, and I'll be like, oh, that's good.
See, I have a terrible memory, so I write down everything that I can.
I have a fairly terrible memory, but for some reason this stuff sticks. Which is why whenever you guys have rules questions, I'm like, bleh. Since we're almost on the questions, let's come over here to Omni's questions. Have Mary Sue and Chuck saved the date cards yet?
What does that mean?
He's giving you grief for the...
Save the date for the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's what that means.
there are no save the date. They're not dating. There's no relationship at all.
Yeah, no,
You're
not
right.
at all.
But RC's gonna try though because Chuck's a good human boy. He's a good guy.
Oh, no.
Why would you saddle him with an elf then? Wouldn't you want to find him a
Because-
good human girl? You're
No,
racist?
you're different.
Oh,
You're
I'm
one of the good ones.
Oh, oh my god!
Okay.
You know,
Oh, goodness!
All right, we went there. So that's another one that would have gotten cut.
Maybe.
like at the end of all this, after all the cuts, it comes out like I really appreciate how RC is a voice of reason, progress, social justice. Like, what the fuck did you do today?
It's also perfect because Chuck has human looking, so he looks less elfy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Richard's like, he's a good human boy.
Yeah.
Because that's what he wants to see.
Does RC actually? Because again, I have a horrible memory, so I guess I forgot that. But does RC know if Chuck is an elf? Can he tell? Is that a thing?
Probably not, because he has cyber ears, so he doesn't even have any points. They're all completely cyberized.
Into
He's a
RC.
little
Okay.
tall. He's a little tall for on the taller side, so he could just be a tall human.
But he's also a
And
little
then-
chubby for an elf. So
That too, yeah. So it's mainly what.
like I think that
Probably not.
I would imagine that RC's looking and going, "Oh, this guy's awfully chubby. There's no way he's an elf, right?"
That's an odd way to approach that. Like, like those 5 people are chubby and therefore not elves. I mean, it's not. It doesn't consume RC's life. But did you? Like, I don't. It's not like he's like a constant what's the current elf ratio of this particular restaurant? I mean, that sounds funny. I will admit to getting a ride out of Oz. Just the character and the player. He just I can just. We should have a special episode of RC takes you through the Vicksburg Museum. That's I mean,
So
Look, we would literally get kicked off of iTunes.
it'd be pretty bad.
one of the other podcasts I listened to is the Shadow of the Cabal podcast, and they had the Legends of the Five Rings. They have a Winter Court set of episodes, and marriage is a big thing because it's a feudal Japan situation, so it's all about political marriages and that kind of thing. And there's this matchmaker there, and one of the characters is not married or in the situation to be married, so they go through like 3 or 4 dates to try and find this guy a wife, and it's fucking hilarious and great. So seeing Richard try to set Chuck up is going to be wonderful. To finish off his questions, is being a Shadowrunner boss's midlife crisis as she gets up there in orc years?
Kinda. I mean, like, her whole life is kind of a midlife crisis at this point. She's obviously she's having marriage troubles. to put it very mildly. I don't know. Like, I don't think she's enjoying this particularly, which I think is sort of the point of a midlife crisis. Is like, I'm not having enough fun. I don't feel young anymore. I want to go do this thing. But I think Boz probably feels older now than she ever has. You know what I mean? Like, she's she's in more pain, emotionally and physically, than she's ever been in a long time. So many things have just fallen apart around her. Is it a midlife crisis? To some extent, yes. To some extent, no. She's a sad character, but she's not trying to have fun. She's trying to do good and make sure that the people that she cares about, the only people left in her life, she wants to make sure they're cared for. It's more maternal, I think, than it is her trying to get thrills.
Do you think any of it is Boz trying to escape? And like this is something to do. Because when you're alone, you've got Boz has her bottle, her demons, her life's in shame.
Yeah,
this is something to do. To get your and kind of escape.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. When she is on the job, she's not drinking. And it's a very stark difference. Like, she's on the job, she's sober, and she can think about something other than the stuff that is haunting her. And I don't know how much of it has come out in the edited episodes, but whenever she's at home, it's always kind of like a rough situation. She's drinking a lot. She's probably not sober for more than a couple hours a day, and she's just sort of burying herself in whiskey, kind of. So yeah, when she's running, when she's doing shadow runs, it is an escape. It's a way for her to not think about it anymore. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Chuck's wife says, Boz is away from her babies. Of course she's sad.
Oh, I'm feeling it.
They also ask, why hasn't Mama insisted that RC bring his new lady friend over for dinner? Omni, thank you for the idea.
Yeah. Thanks.
Wah, wah, wah.
I can't wait for Boz to meet Mama, like, face to face. The only time that Mama's ever seen Boz is like looking through the blind through a window and kind of glaring. So I'm
that could be good. I thought you remember one time, like, you came into the house and it was like, "Hey, everybody, I go back to my room."
No, Boz showed up on his porch and like they chatted on the porch, and Mom was like looking out through the blinds at her. That was only the closest they've come, I think.
I think
Hey,
Mary
Boz.
Sue's the only one that met her.
Just imagine what Mama's going to do when a troll walks into her house.
Or when she finds out that a troll has already been in her house before they moved.
She'll never
Oh, yeah,
find that.
because I thoroughly intend on grabbing a bottle of the whiskey and asking her, did you ever get that shawl back?
What an asshole.
I'm just saying, if you want to get to an asshole war with RC,
And me. If you want to start with me, RC, I can do that with you, brother.
okay.
And then his final question is, why don't the rest of the team have the hatred for Morgana that is appropriate?
So Chuck thinks Morgana's great.
It's because she
gave
is.
him 500 new yen to go take Mary Sue on a date. Who does that?
Really nice people.
Exactly. And that's the only interaction he's had with Morgana.
She also didn't charge you for drinks.
That too. Lovely lady.
She's just a classy person. Yeah.
She's great. She's wonderful. She's paid us a lot of money. I like that too.
Morgana has gone through on what she said she would deliver. She's taught me several things, got my butt out of the fire. I haven't had a reason to hate her or despise her. I've asked her a question. I've gotten an answer. It works.
Yeah, Buzz was thoroughly expecting to get backstabbed by Morgana, and they haven't been, despite everything. Like, she was expecting to get backstabbed, even if they were very deferential to Morgana, but they weren't. I mean, they've obviously been giant assholes as a group to Morgana, and she still hasn't stabbed them in the back. So, yeah, Buzz trusts her more than she should, probably, at this stage.
I would agree with that, with at least from as playing RC, because I was very skeptical, because it's like, okay, we've heard about these Shadowrunners and these Fixers and these Johnsons, and in the Trid shows they're always trying to screw you over, which, by the way, the Trid shows get right, but RC doesn't know this, so it's like at the beginning it's very skeptical, and the nicer she is, the more untrustworthy that is. But she's kept the money rolling and she hasn't screwed us. So it's like, okay, this is fine. This is fair.
She pays the bills.
Yeah, she pays the bills. But Mary Sue, RC's just gonna like not. I'm not for Morgana. RC's not gonna be bad for her. Like,
Damn,
it's fine. You do you. Ah, fuck.
That's fine.
Sorry.
I got most of that.
And we all know that Mary Sue hates her.
I'm going to say that question was not for me. That was for everyone else.
Mary Sue was like, I know, right? I know.
God damn it. Man, we're running out.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Mary Sue, you asked, they didn't want to know how the GM decides on a run. What did you mean?
You had people submit questions, and you had commented on the questions they submitted, and I said, "Oh, I'm surprised that like nobody has asked, how does the GM decide on runs with us?"
You heard it here first, fans. Mary Sue
Like-
judged all of you.
No, oh my god. Fine.
Hates Morgana, doesn't,
hmm
judges
Yep.
the fans. Just
Judges.
the
I'm the
worst.
worst person ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
We love you. We love you, Mary Sue.
Yeah.
So I decide on runs based upon what is interesting contextually. For example, we talked about getting Boss some backstory time with her husband and kids. Actually, let me roll back a little bit. We knew that Michael was going to be going away because he had work. So we needed to get into a situation where Michael was, where the show was stable and Michael could leave and then come back. So we had to get them set up with a fixer. We had to get them a job under their belt, that kind of thing. And then Michael went away. Boz had, in the conversation we had, made mention of the fact that she wasn't. She wanted to get more of the Boz backstory stuff brought to the front. So what happens? We go to Detroit. And I put them in a situation that forced the interaction. The guy that kind of, this is going to sound kind of railroady, but it's different. At some point during that run with the train, they were going to interact with Boz's husband. If they sought him out, that's one thing. If they didn't, he was going to be involved in the train somehow. It was just a matter of where he was going to crop up. It happened to crop up in that Mary Sue asked some maintenance guy about how the trains are put together, and suddenly it was, that guy's not going to have that information. It doesn't make sense for that guy to have that information, so he's going to point her at this other guy that does have the information, and that was a good time to introduce Boss's husband. Which I guess is where I can mention some of the idea baby I mentioned earlier is Boss's husband is obviously in financial situations because he is trying to raise 3 kids, has a job, has a lawyer that he's dealing with, and all this other kind of wonderful stuff because Boss fled.
And hasn't sent money. That was the thing. Like, she had been sending her money, her family money, up and like, 'cause I didn't take it as a flaw, because there's a flaw for that. But she had been sending the money, and because I didn't take the flaw, I kind of stopped. I figured things kind of went down with the company, and she wasn't getting paid anymore, so she stopped sending money. So they're kind of left out in the cold.
So when the mafia, I think it was the mafia, is trying to get this shipment to Seattle, it became, okay, well, how are they going to get it there? They're going to smuggle it. They're going to fake some records and that kind of stuff. And after the fact, I had the idea that we can't be done with Boz's family because that's a big part of the character. So, who is the person that is going to be responsible when they didn't get their shipment? So, who arranged for it to get out in a shady way? How convenient that Boz's ex-husband, I guess, is in a financial situation where he could maybe be slipped some money to do something that isn't directly illegal. You know?
Oh dear.
Yeah. And I can't imagine how creating a splinter group in the Ancients in Detroit is going to come back to bite you when you armed a small faction of them with a giant pile of guns. So a lot of it depends upon what the players want to do, and what makes sense narratively, because we knew that we were finishing up the Valerie situation, and I didn't want the player that would become Chuck to just be dropped into an inn. Here's Morgana giving you your next job. Here's this guy to be your decker. I wanted it to be more organic and make more sense, and more importantly for whoever that player was going to be to also not be a Shadowrunner, because we have an entire cast of not Shadowrunners.
So it sounds to me like you're saying you pick your runs in such a way that it advances all the other stuff that's going on in the story between characters and backgrounds and stuff.
I try to. As we get into more of the run that you guys are on now, you will see that the reason I chose the target was because of something very obvious when it came up. So, you can't see me making an evil smile at you, but I'm making a Cheshire Cat smile. Like, ha ha. Yes, Two Jacks, Chuck is a decker. Surprise.
Well, he's like a decker. He will be. I don't think he hasn't really done much. He's just a computer guy, right? Like he's not a hacker.
Yeah, it's not mentioned anything yet. I mean, he gets blown up and then is in the hospital. That's all that's happened that they've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary's other question was, how did each player decide what to play?
I was told to play a decker.
That's
I think it was for the original ones. It was like, well, what made Boz decide to play that character and choose that archetype? What made RC do that? What made Michael do that?
Well, to carry on for Chuck, the Discord channel that is hidden to the general public, I just spammed it filled with a bunch of character ideas, and we just commented on them, and we merged two of them together, and that's the one I picked. That's about it. I picked some of my favorite ones. There's another one that I liked, where I would be playing. I'd be playing an orc, and it was RC's sister's fiance, and so there'd be a huge spiel with that. But then I realized I'm, white straight male. I don't know how to do racism very well, so it.
You're also
Canadian.
Canadian.
What?
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I'm a white straight male. I don't know how to do racism. There's lots of people who would disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't know where that.
Sorry. Oh, I'm not used to receiving racism. Does that make more sense for you?
There you go. It makes more sense.
I was born as what's the line from the jerk? I was born a small black child. So, Steve Martin movie.
You're just full of references, RC.
Yeah, I didn't have the right term clad. I had to Google that. It's in reference to a previous thing Michael typed in right turn clad, which apparently is a reference to a 30-year-old movie where Clint Eastwood co-starred with an ape or a monkey of some kind. And
An orangutan, yeah.
God. Yeah. I'm sorry, Chuck. You were talking about for character. I feel bad.
No, that was it. I would just pick the two that were mixed together. But my favorite one from, I don't know, comedy standpoint was that one, because I think it would have been interesting to have to deal with Mama and stuff. But I like Chuck.
Yeah. Tag someone.
Oh, I'm supposed to tag someone. Sorry. Oh gosh, I'm
God, get with it, man.
RC, you go.
Crap. I looked at the rule book under Magic and the Matrix, and I was like, that's hard. So that's not going to happen. And I'd already played like an edge, what's called an edge-mancer character with like a ton of edge and could, rely. And it was a generalist. I saw Boz kind of wanted to play that, I think, and I wanted to try Rigger. It appeals to me honestly more than Magic does, and Matrix was kind of interesting. But I really wanted to have toys. I wanted to have drones and bots. I wanted to be this guy who was just sort of, kind of like an Iron Man situation where you have an individual who's not that strong, can't do a whole lot by themselves, but has all these cool toys and drones that do everything for him, and serve as sort of a metaphor for the hard exterior, soft interior of the character. See? I went deep with it.
So let me get this straight. You thought the rules for Matrix and Magic were hard, so you picked rigging, which is the hardest.
Yeah, because I don't know. Like, it was that was part of it. It wasn't all of it, but I like the idea of being someone reliant on drones and tech and toys and having all these little like Swiss Army knife things that are, kind of like Iron Man. It's very fragile. It's a lot of capability, but it's a very fragile capability.
Plus, I mean, rigging may be complex, but it's sort of broken up a lot, and it's easy to sort of like focus on the things that interest you with rigging. Whereas if you're like being a decker, you can't really do that. You kind of have to know the whole system, otherwise you're just going to run into roadblocks. And
that's true.
It's very methodical. At least I don't know technical measures that well, but with decking, it's very I log in, I switch grids, I do perception check, find data bomb, disable data bomb, edit file. It's very methodical, and I know I'm going to forget one of those steps and explode.
Yeah.
And the Matrix is extremely punishing. For whatever reason, they made the Matrix the most punishing part of this game. It's the one thing I'd play. It's probably the one thing I would change about the rule set. Well, it's the biggest thing I would change about the rule set is that the Matrix is high risk of failure, high punishment for failure.
Stealth is like that too. Actually, I
agree. That was my next thing. Honest to God, like it's stealth and Matrix.
Well,
stealth.
So that's why I gave Chuck one edge so that horrible things do happen.
And then everyone else gets screwed over by Chuck's failure.
He's not gonna getting shot or anything.
Yeah. Do you want to tag someone, RC?
Sure, I will tagify Michael.
If I remember right, when we were hashing out what we were doing story-wise and character-wise, I originally was the one that wanted to be an adept.
Yeah.
I wasn't originally going to be a mage. After chit-chatting with Boz, Boz pitched to me basically the character concept that was rolling around in that head, and like I really think that I wanted to do an adept. Do you have a problem with that? I was like, no, I don't have a problem at all. I'll just go full on magic, full mage instead of the adept aspect of it. So I'm very much, when we're getting into a party, as far as any kind of game system goes, I look for the hole that needs to be filled as far as what is the party missing. Do they have a samurai? Do they have a rigger, a decker, a mage, all those other things? So that's what made me decide to actually want to sit back and play a mage, or I should say that's what pointed me more in that direction.
Man, there was a lot of clicking going on there, Mike.
Really?
Yeah, sort of a rhythmic click, click, click. I don't know what it is.
Do you have a fan going on that might be blowing on your mic?
No, nowhere near me.
Oh, it's gone now.
Might have been too close to my computer. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
So yeah, that's how I ended up picking mine. And then I'll tag Boz, since we were just talking.
I like playing characters that are pretty different from me and trying to do them justice. I always play female characters. It's just a thing I've always done, just because I think it's more interesting to get as far away from myself as I can. And I kind of realize it's so rare to see like a middle-aged woman portrayed in a game like this, as sort of like a strong character. People just don't seem to gravitate towards like a middle-aged orc. It just seemed very far away from the norm, and I was interested in trying to do that justice. Trying to get into Boz's head has been kind of a journey, and I like her a lot, and I'm glad that people are starting to sort of appreciate her, because that's kind of was the point, was to try to create a character that was different and also done well and done respectfully. And I think she's badass. She has her problems, but I think she's extremely cool. She was originally supposed to be a kind of a light mage character. She was supposed to be a magic user. She was originally kind of there's actually a lot of stuff that was sort of in the beginning she was supposed to be, but we never kind of got there. Like she was going to contract some. I forget the name of it. I don't know if we want to talk about it or not, but I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to happen at this point, because I don't think I want it to happen. Is that okay if we talk about that?
The changeling stuff?
The changeling stuff. She was like at this point it almost seems absurd to take her that way, but she was originally going to be a magic user. She was going to get she's going to later on get infected or whatever and become a changeling. Surge, right? A lot of that stuff never happened. It sort of happened like naturally as we were talking about characters, because me and Michael went back and forth a little bit about character stuff, and I started to like the idea of this sort of like gunslinger character who was kind of was kind of like not very technical. She's not involved with a lot of the modern technology in the Shadowrun universe. I didn't realize at the time, because I hadn't listened to a lot of Shadowrun podcasts or anything, and I hadn't been involved in the Shadowrun community. I did not realize when I was doing it that like a gunslinger adept that is a very common concept, and I felt miserable about it for a little while after I found out that it was pretty common. She was originally going to be kind of cowboyish, and I was like, that's even worse. That's what everybody seems to do, is they make these cowboy adept gunslingers. So I've tried to move away from that and make her a little bit more like a noir
by drinking
detective.
whiskey all the time.
She smokes, she drinks whiskey. She's more like, I like to think of her as like a noir detective. You know, she's the hard-boiled, sits behind the desk, waits for the femme fatale to come in the door, and that sort of thing. That's sort of where I'm trying to take her now. Anyway, this has been very rambly. So yeah, main thing, I was really excited to play a character that was a strong, middle-aged woman. Okay, I guess the only person left is Mary Sue.
So as a player, I usually only play one of two things because I feel most comfortable with them, and that's a face or mage. And Michael had already taken mage, so that left me as face. And I am a huge fan of juxtaposition. And a sixth world, a dystopian world, is always portrayed as dark and gloomy and oppressive. And I thought how great it would be to have this little ray of sunshine and rainbows in the game. And that's how I ended up with Mary Sue.
Which I love that you named her Mary Sue.
I did that for you.
I know.
Mary Sue, with the last name is Japanese, because she's Japanese American. It is Japanese for snowflake. I literally named her Mary Sue Snowflake.
She's a
in
perfect
honor.
little thing, isn't she?
She's just adorable, and I knew you'd love her. So, yeah, I did that for for the GM because he loves Mary Sue's. So I made one. Mm-hmm. And so that's how she got her name. But the attitude was just simply because I just thought it would be wonderful opposition to everything else in this world.
This actually kind of fits in. One of the things that we did when we first started and when Chuck joined was I asked everybody for some short-term character goals, some long-term character goals, and a player goal. And we've started going through some of that stuff. Boss wanted to get her family involved. Richard really wants to find Howard, and he's coming. Mary Sue wanted her character's life to be made miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And man, has it been a lot of fun making her life miserable. I don't remember what the other ones were. But I'm going to be bugging you guys for updated ones of those now that we're a little bit more down the line here. But
yeah, it's probably time.
Yeah, it's probably time for that. Let me just find... There it is. Boss wanted to talk to her lawyer, do some mentor spirit stuff, try and convince the group to leave Seattle. Her long-term stuff was trying to reach some kind of closure with her family. We'll see about that. Try to figure out something about her Arctic research stuff that she was involved in, and we'll get back into that. And as a player, Balls wanted to get into some of the survival skills and tracking and stuff. I have ideas for that. Michael wanted to find out about his family and find out some of the truth, and that we'll find out about. A long-term goal was something learning more spells, family ties, contacting, learning from other mages. His personal goal was to develop Michael to see where things go and find out just what happens. Mary Sue needs to learn that the world isn't rainbows and unicorns, gain the respect of others. Long-term goal is that Mary Sue wants to become a fixer and wants to ruin Morgana and take over her client list. Yeah. That's cute.
I'll get there.
Your player goal is, Mary Sue will never get her life back to what she planned, and you want her to begin to realize that and either get with the program or end up dead in the shadows. And we'll see where that goes. We'll skip Valerie. Find Howard. Expand to get some more drones. You've got a couple of more. You wanted to kind of come to peace with Valerie over some of the handicap jokes you've made, and now that she's a vampire and stuff, but sadly that's gonna go. Become less of an asshole is one of his long-term goals. We'll see about that. He wants to set up a base.
Can't win them all.
And then as a player, you want to expand while not bumping into Boz's territory, which is interesting. We've talked a little bit about some of that stuff, like you can fly a plane and that kind of thing. And you also asked, Bamps, do you have a desire to RP as a racist old Southern woman? And, well, everybody loves Mama.
Whee!
Chuck wants to get better at sorting so he can be useful in physical combat.
Oh, dear.
He wants to impress Mary Sue. Long term, he wants to go back and get his master's. He wants to break up Mary Sue and Valentine.
Wow. Real nice guy we got here.
He wants to save Mary Sue from a life of crime and get revenge on those who wrecked his body as long-term goals. I have ideas for how he's going to come back, don't worry. Player goals, he's got to get his Sinburn and life completely wrecked. Yeah. So, that and his asthma's obviously got to come up at some bad time. But it's one of those things that, like, like the runs we talked about earlier, we have to. I have this list of things that the players want to do and that they want their characters to experience and that kind of stuff, and I draw from that to give me inspiration for different runs that we will go on, that kind of thing.
After I looked at that list, I realized I still need to do the lawyer thing, which actually I think I'm going to do probably in the next couple of sessions.
You could, as a person who no longer exists, just write him off and never contact him again, because
She could, but there's a reason why she would want to talk to him specifically. So
yeah, and that's fine. And then they come back to Chuck's wife's question. Bamps, have you ever done anything like... Let me give that a run over again. Have you ever done anything to this scale before, and do you have an end in mind? Or are you going to leave it to the PC's cast? Have you ever been involved with something like this before? I'll put the question to you guys first, because I will talk for a while on this. Have you guys ever been involved with something like this before?
I've never been in a podcast.
No, not in a podcast or anything like that.
No, I have not. I was very resistant to it.
This is your fault. You twisted my arm.
I know, and because you guilted me, I'm in it.
I almost said no when we started.
My.
It struck me as a very stressful thing to get involved in. And I almost said no, and the only reason I didn't is because I said to myself, you can't keep saying no to everything. So I just was like, run with it, and if it turns into a giant mess, then you can just quit early or whatever. But no, it has worked out pretty well.
Man.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when Bamps actually reached out and said, "Hey, I'm about to do a thing. You want in?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to." You mean I get to sit down and game with people that I enjoy gaming with on a regular basis? Yeah, let's do this. Go ahead.
It's also why I said nothing to nobody for like 6 months until we were ready to release, in case everything fell apart at the last moment.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, what about you, Babs? Do you think you would change going back to from the beginning in terms of, I don't know, whatever, this is your first podcast?
Anybody you would cut?
Yeah.
Well, there's this one asshole. We'll hold on to that question for a second, Richard.
God, I'm sorry, Bamps. Jeez.
Yeah. I have done actual play stuff before. One of the things I did on the subreddit was a games for GMs, because I offer a lot of advice and suggestions to a lot of different people at a lot of different times. But people will ask questions like, hey, what do I do in this situation? And then I give advice, and that advice, while accurate for what was portrayed, they didn't portray all of the information. So it's like, oh, but I have this other thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, that changes things drastically. It would have been nice to know that to begin with. So what I did was I decided on a couple of my weekends. This is when I was working at the school, I think. So I had like every weekend off. I would put up a post on the subreddit, and I would get a bunch of other people together that are GMs and looking to improve. Games for GMs, it's on my YouTube channel. And we would sit down for about 6 hours and we would play a game together that I would run as a one-shot, with the idea that we would start off playing for about an hour, hour and a half, take a break, come back, ask questions from like an interviewist perspective, to me, to the other people, to whoever, and really break it down and digest it, and then just play through each of the major aspects of a Shadowrun and talk about it as 6 GMs that are sitting down where everybody wants to improve their craft. And I did a couple of those games because they seemed to go over pretty well, but that evolved into a thing that was that I called shadow walking, with the idea that you gotta walk before you can run, and it's really very clever, and I hate it. Where I opened up a table on Roll20, and I'm like, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna get a bunch of people together who want to get into Shadowrun. I will help you get into Shadowrun as a group. I will answer all of your questions. I will give you all of the information that I can, with the idea that after a couple of weeks, one of you guys is going to switch seats with me, and you're going to run a game, and I'm going to play, and we're going to help you to develop your own style and make you more comfortable with the system. I did 3 of those groups. The second one is the one that I bet Michael in, um, with the idea that after a little bit of time, 4 months, 6 months, something like that, my personal hope was that I would leave the group and the group could continue to play without me and they would feel comfortable, or at the very least the people involved would go on to run their own groups and be comfortable in that aspect, and that I could help them out in that situation. So I did like 3 of those, and I guess they were moderately successful. Whether or not you call that as on the same scale as this, this has been going, we've been playing for a year, released for 6 months, so the third group of the shadow walking stuff went for about 6 months, which is all on the YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the comments if I remember. Hopefully I will. So that's kind of the thing. I was involved with the Runner Hub off Reddit for 2 or 3 years and that kind of stuff. So I've run a lot of Shadowrun and helped a lot of people get into it. Do I have an end in mind? I don't, but I have talked to everybody here and was like, at some point this story will end. Because, I don't know, let's say you're in a plane and you get shot down out of the air over the ocean and you all die. Well, fuck. You're all
It's
dead.
a Sopranos ending.
I'm sorry, you've all died, because that's how it happened. But it'll never be a situation that you guys didn't see coming. You'll be in the middle of a dogfight and stuff, and you can do things or whatever, but it'll be through your actions in that situation that things come to an end. Or, for example, if you ever got into the situation where it made complete sense for you guys to sell out and become a corporate asset Shadowrunner team, you guys have come full circle. You started off as corp people, you've gone through the shadows, and you've come back to corp people. Unless there's something drastically overhanging, I feel like that makes a nice, neat ending for the story that we are telling.
You've also mentioned that you don't want this game to go on so long that the characters become so powerful that it just becomes kind of rote and we're just, being awesome all the time. Like that's not really in theme for the game.
That's part of it.
And I agree with that. I don't want to get to that point either. Like what makes this game and this podcast interesting to me is that our characters are flawed and they're figuring things out. And as soon as that goes away, I'm gonna, like, as soon as Boz becomes a good Shadowrunner who's just really good at her job, I'm gonna be ready to move on probably.
The closest thing that I have in my mind right now for an idea for an air quotes an ending is if when you guys are done with the people that ruined your lives. Like, I'm gonna give you Howard, and I'm gonna let you know that Howard's going to have information that you can get a hold of to give you more details on the other people that were involved in the Shadowrun. What you guys do with that, that's on you. But that is a potential ending outside of a TPK ending that I could see happening. Third part of that is, are you going to leave it to the PCs? Kinda. If you guys all came to me and were like, I feel like their story is coming to an end, we would work on getting it figured out. I have other stories and other game systems kind of rolling around in my head that I'd be curious to finding out the answers to. So we would probably move into one of those. You guys would obviously get first invite, and if you guys weren't interested in that system, story, or setting or whatever, we could find other people. Not to like toss you guys away, but the player's enjoyment is just as important to keeping the story real. Like if you guys weren't feeling the Shadowrun story, you're like, then it would come through, and that's very important for telling a true and honest story. Man, it got sad there at the end, didn't it?
Well, I think that's
There's
good. I
always-
mean, I was processing it. I was processing that.
Every story has an ending. I just
Every
want to make sure it's a good one.
That it's an appropriate one at the very least.
Yeah.
Richard, you had a question that I told you I would answer after this. I don't remember what it was.
So it's like an NPC interaction that reveals something about Morgana that we didn't know, I think.
Nah, it was something, because I kind of remember what my answer was going to be.
What would you change about the show, maybe?
Yeah,
Or
that
what would
sounds
you
like it.
like going back? Second guessing yourself and using a hindsight and all that.
This show has damaged friendships. There are people out there who are disappointed and upset that they didn't get the invite before you guys did.
Have they considered sitting and spinning? That's what I would suggest that they do. Was that not sensitive? I'm sorry.
That was not sensitive.
That was not sensitive. Well, shit.
No.
It breaks my heart.
You know many of these people, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I feel bad because I can have a horrible memory, so I know them, but I can't separate them in my brain, and I feel bad. Having said that, I read a lot of the chat in the lurkiness there,
Okay.
and it was like I really felt there was a lot of very off basis. It was like basically you kept something quiet because you were working on it, and you wanted to make it good. And so if I was going to go out there and make some kind of new thing, I wouldn't show it off every step of the way. I'd be worried it sucked, or I'd be worried I wasn't going to pull it off, or even get it organized, especially when you involve multiple people. And the reaction was just like, I thought, outrageous. Like they just were deeply hurt that you didn't tell them you were, like if I was going to write a story, and I got a few chapters out before I told my best friend, and he would like never talk to me again. I don't know, it really felt weird. So hence my lack of sensitivity.
Well, people have feelings, and they have their reasons, and I guess that's sort of the crux of it. It's unfortunate that it had that effect. I feel bad about that. I don't know any of these people, but at least I can be sensitive about it.
Well, it's damaged. It hasn't ruined or killed. It's just damaged.
There's at least one I think you could put down as killed.
Yes. That one is fine. Yes.
I get it, but it's not like they weren't on the list. They were just lower on the list for various reasons. I was lucky enough that there was only one person that turned me down off of my top 5 people that I asked, and that was to begin with a issue of timing because they didn't know anything about Shadowrun, and between the invite and how long it would take for them to learn the system and stuff, and when we were starting, and some things that were going on in their life, the timing there just didn't work out. So
I kind of feel like I was in the right place. Go ahead, boss.
I mean, I was surprised that you asked me, but I guess it kind of begs the question, like, why? Since we're talking about a list of people that you chose and where people were on that list, like, why did you pick the people that you picked?
Oh, it's not fair for me to just say nope, not answering that, because we've been answering questions all night.
You don't have to. I mean,
no, I have to.
Validate us.
So
Feed me.
I picked Mary Sue because if she's going to force me into doing this, she's coming along. And that's really all it is to her on that end.
Revenge.
Yeah, it really was not about ability or skill. It was simply just spite.
Yeah,
you're very good, though. So
Thank you.
There is some, like, we played a couple of little games together, and there was the chemistry, or however you want to put it, of the interactions and the trust and that stuff is all very important. But first and foremost, it was, if you're going to make me do this, you're coming with me, because I need my huckleberry.
Aw.
Yeah,
Aw.
gross. Boz, I met while playing Blades in the Dark for the short while that I played, and we had, I don't even remember if we had a lot of interaction or chemistry there.
It was like you and me were the only two who were kind of playing that game, is what it felt like.
That's kind of what it felt like to me for the most part as well, but there was something in there that stuck. I don't know if that makes sense in a weird way.
No, I mean, I guess it might have been timing. Like, if it had been a little longer between the end of that session, you might have thought it's somebody else. But like, we had finished up that Blades in the Dark game, like not even like a month before you started this project. So
Is that what it was?
I think
I have
so.
a bad concept of time.
Man,
Blades
I will
is
say
so
that it's.
good.
I need to hear what you think of the fact that I spent that entire Blades game doing some kind of Scottish Irish accent that I miss horribly.
Well, here's your opportunity to do it for everybody else.
I don't think I can just do it. It's been so long. It's been so long.
All right.
I would love to, but I don't think I could.
How about the fact that you played basically an old-timey chimney sweep using this picture whose name was Cricket, and Mary Sue and her one little Blades in the Dark thing.
That was so bizarre.
Yeah.
That is like the greatest story.
Used the exact same picture. Used
And had the
exact
same
And name.
Yep. And name.
Just, I don't know how it happened. It's almost like it's magical to me.
Well, Cricket is one of the names that they suggest is just like a.
It is. But the thing is, like, I didn't get it from the book though. I've used that name for Shadowrun character before, actually.
No, I had never used it before.
I've always
she looked
liked
like a cricket. The picture, she looked like a cricket. She was Cricket.
Yeah, the name and the picture go together really well in my mind too. But it's just bizarre that we both went onto the internet and found a picture and put this exact same name to it. We played slightly different characters. It would have been hilarious if we were playing the same playbook, but it wasn't quite that bad.
Michael, we played in the Shadow Walking group 2, and the one instance that stands out to me 110% from that entire, well, the one with you, I should say, because Liam did a really awesome thing when you guys went to Egypt. Like, everything he did there was great. You guys were sent in to extract this Nartaki stylist from an Evo fashion show. And it was her, I think it was the Fox Shifter, and somebody else, and you guys were down at the pool. And you, being the giant meathead troll that you were talking to the extraction target while the face and somebody else was trying to separate the other two women from her so that you guys could kidnap her. And you just went for it. And not in the, like, caveman club over the head kind of way, but in the, like, I'm going to tell her that we are here to kidnap her. And you convinced her into walking out with you willingly.
I'll admit it was more of a run out, but yes.
Richard, you're funny.
We needed comic relief.
It's not even specifically that, but every time I played with you on the hub was a good experience. And some of the roleplay stuff that we really got into, the one time was with I was playing my lion shifter. It's a mountain lion. It was great. And we had some awesome interactions there.
We did. I think that was the only time where I would, like, RC or the Cotton was a straight man.
Well, Because when she revealed the fact that she was a shifter to you guys, you were like, "Can you be sneaky?" And she was like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Show me." And you turn around. So it's like, okay. And then she levitated herself and floated over behind him and like tapped him on the shoulder. And he turns around to seeing this floating mountain lion just sitting there. And you're just like, "All right, you got me."
Yep. That happened a lot in that game because there's things I didn't know. Like, I didn't know all the lore. And so it's like, oh, hi, this player's a ghoul, so they're blind. Didn't know that. And so it's like, oh, yeah, I have to eat people. It's like, okay. Let me process this a bit.
Um,
I should read those books.
you gave her a white cowboy hat, which was hilarious because then she's like, "Is he trying to mate with me? Because he's giving me gifts."
That yep.
Wow.
A select few got cotton gifted cowboy hats.
So there was like all of that stuff. I also remember I had you when I was GMing. You guys were breaking into a place to plant a data recording device on a thing, but you guys weren't allowed to like murder everybody because in a week you were supposed to go back and get the thing out with all of the data that it had recorded. And you broke off some Fargo quote on some dude. I was just like, "Dang!"
Oh yeah.
Here there be dragons. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was great. So I was like, all right, that's that.
That's when everyone found out RC has no melee ability. Or Cotton, sorry. Cotton had no Cotton had every skill in the game except like
the ability to punch,
blades, melee, and clubs or whatever.
Yeah. He did also have a submaplane, which was great.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Valerie
I feel
came with Mary Sue.
I feel like we should skip Chuck. Probably.
Yeah. Sorry, Chuck. It came down to a D5, so you know, like,
I do remember you text me about this. Like I left the hub, and life happened. I got married. I was in a relationship, and so I got back. I'd go on the Shadowrun subreddit and just read shit. And all of a lark, I like shot you a message like to see if you still actually remember who the hell I was or whatever. Like some joke. And I think that's when you like somewhere around there you sent me a private message. I can't remember if that's what it was though, because I had been out of the game for a while.
I think when I was starting to put it together, I had seen that you were active. I think I sent you a message of, "Hey," just to like see what's up, see how you've been, and then I have this crazy idea.
Indeed, and it's a full experience. I've met all you guys are like on a different level because I'm from the hub where we just got together and did the job, and RP happened, but it wasn't anywhere near this. And so it's like, oh, everybody's like, I'm playing a middle-aged broken woman with the kids. It's like I'm playing I have a troll with a heart of gold. He was actually a complete nerd, and he lost his family. It's like I'm a jackass old white guy who likes electronics and oh god. So hopefully it's worked out pretty well to our listeners. They seem to like us.
They're still watching. I think. So yeah. I guess that's all the questions. So. Oh wait, I have an ending question.
Uh-oh.
A good one to end on. So who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say NPCs, or is it got to be a PC?
I think NPCs was already one of them, wasn't it? It's a joke. I wasn't really expecting an answer on that one. We're like babies. Yeah.
Choose
have
your
a
favorite
favorite.
child.
Yeah.
This is tough because everybody has different reasons. I'm sorry, Chuck and Michael, you drop in the rankings because you guys have just not been around as much.
You're
Not
ranking
worried
them.
about it.
Fair, okay.
At least I had the decency to warn you.
So this is also not fair. because I have things in my brain that are going to happen semi soon that I really want to see the answers to it, because that's kind of why we play. We play to find out what happens, right? I have these questions that I want to ask and then find out what happens. Sadly, most of them are around Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Just because we've talked a couple of times, kind of like, she wants Mary Sue's life to be miserable and terrible. I'm like, awesome. That lets me do all kinds of things to her, and I don't have to feel bad about it. So there's that, and it just kind of generates ideas. She mentioned that she wants to pick up some negative qualities because she spent all of her karma on buying off the ones that she had. So some story appropriate negative qualities will be coming her way in the near future. But we won't get into the details of that. Thought you had another question, or was that it?
Who, me? No, that was it. That was the
Okay.
question. It was supposed to be a joke where you go, and then we leave.
Anybody have anything else? Let me check the Twitch chat. Two Jack said, sometimes you have to accept that no matter how good a friend you are, luck or fate wasn't with you at that time. Somebody else gets to be in the limelight. And Joe said, and sometimes it comes down to a simple issue of mic quality or network stability. Which is true.
Also background noise.
Some of that stuff did factor in, but I'm not gonna get into that because it's not fair. Just like I'm not gonna get into why I chose Chuck, because that's not fair. The rest of you assholes, though.
This is going to totally affect the way I RP some stuff in the future. Not in a metagame way, but just it's brought to light some things I probably should have seen, maybe.
What's that in specific?
I really don't think. I mean, like Boz is a very closed off character who's been played very well, but it's hard to penetrate. And I don't think I, as a player, and especially as the character, understood exactly how bad it is. Because someone who's just quiet may just be quiet, but like Boz isn't. Like Boz needs a hug, like for reals.
She's doing okay. She's surviving.
She's doing okay. There's not. It's not good.
Nobody who's doing okay says.
I escaped my depressing life by shadow running and drinking. Said no one with a healthy outlook ever.
I worry that because like this has come up a few times, and I worry that like part of what makes her interesting is the fact that it's kind of going on, and I worry that everyone's gonna like step in and like be like, we gotta save Boz. But the thing is, she's hiding it in character. She's hiding it pretty well. She lets it slip here and there. Like she showed up at Val's place, kind of like half in the bag, and there was a time where she was sitting in a meet with like a flask or whatever, and but she's always sober whenever she's with the rest of the group, unless they're like pointedly all like sitting down to have a drink together. She's always sober. So like that side of her life is kind of she compartmentalizes quite a lot. So I worry that like all like the chatter that we have about Boz's problems is gonna like unduly impact how the other characters treat her, because that's something that kind of needs to come out, I think. So I'd rather I would rather arrange for that to come out, like arrange a situation where it's like, oh, there's a problem, rather than just have someone step in and be like, do you have a problem, Boz? We're gonna solve it for you. Intervention time. Because I don't think
ice baby. You got a problem, yo, I'll solve it.
Because I don't think it has been significant enough in the interactions she's had with other members of the team for it to like present as a problem.
Not yet, anyway.
I hear you. RC has tried to kind of get Boz to buck up because RC is usually. I mean, he's RC is generally a more positive person. I mean, he talks a lot of shit, but he's fairly happy with life.
I feel like Boz
like
and
tries to get Boz to buck up.
Well, she's not. I mean, they joke around. She jokes around with RC. They'll sit in the van and like, you know, shoot the shit a little bit. I don't think she's super grim with him. She's just not. She's not a ray of sunshine.
One of the things that's interesting is I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I thought X was the main character," and I feel like we've done an okay job of that so far, spreading it around. Like Boz was kind of the main character when you guys were in Detroit because there was some family stuff. Chuck's kind of the main character right now in the releases because he's new. Michael.
It's funny that you say that because he's like frequently, until like recently, has not been in many of our scenes.
He does drop off a little bit between now and when he actually comes back into it a little bit because stuff.
Yeah.
Joe said Scrapper is the main character he thought.
We haven't talked to Scrapper in a long time. We need to correct that.
So I think we've done a pretty okay job of spreading that around a little bit, but
yeah, I think when you're GMing for a game that's for consumption, I think one of the big jobs is like deciding where the spotlight needs to be at any given time, and sort of, I think you've done a good job with that.
You guys have done a good job following up on it. Like you were talking about, you wanted to do this stuff with your family, and it's like, boom, here we go. We're going to Detroit, and you leaned into it.
I really wanted to do more with that. I really did.
We can talk, and I can find out other ways to make bosses like miserable with that.
Well, I'll be giving you kind of an inroad there. I think in the next couple sessions, so we'll talk about it.
Awesome. Does anybody have anything else before I get into some small announcements?
No, not for me.
All right. First announcement in the show notes, wherever I end up putting this, if it's just the podcast feed or that kind of stuff, I'm going to put a link to our Discord channel for anybody who wants to come hang out. Recently, Two Jacks came onto the Discord channel, and it's been awesome with his energy and stuff as he's going through the different episodes, just kind of binge listening and watching and listening to his excitement as he gets through it has just been, well, I said it earlier, but it warms my cold black heart.
It's energizing.
It is. Me. So, anybody who's out there listening, just come hang out. We talk about all kinds of stuff that's not important. The second thing, and this is going to be a thing that'll start off on Patreon, is we are going to do a Halloween game that Mary Sue is going to run in Call of Cthulhu. It's just going to be a 1 or 2 shot episode, depending upon how quickly it takes for her to kill us all. But that'll be a thing. That'll be recorded. I'm not going to stop our Shadowrun recordings, so I'm going to kill myself editing all of this stuff. But I will put that up on the Patreon. I may, depending upon how long it ends up being, release the first episode as like a little teaser of like, hey, here you go. This is what's kind of going on. So that'll be cool, I hope. I've never played Call of Cthulhu before.
It'll be fine. You're going to do fine.
I'm still like struggling with character stuff, but I'm looking forward to it a lot.
I'm looking forward to leaning hard into a terrible trope and getting killed because of it. But
so I meant to ask actually. Everyone in the general chat is in Patreon, right? That's how it works. Or did you open it up to everybody?
There are a couple of people on there that are sort of friends of the show that are
Okay. Because you said I should send you a link for that little short story thing, so you can put it in.
Yeah,
Patreon.
you can just drop it in
like
general.
dump it into general chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
do that. Send it to me still, and I guess I can get it out of general, and I'll stick it on the episode notes for people.
Done and done.
Joe says, just remember, Call of Cthulhu, you spend most of your time looking for stuff that you don't want to find, and then run away.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Sounds like a good summarization.
Sounds like me on OkCupid. Pre-marriage, by the way.
Right.
Just get it out there.
Uh-huh.
Not going down like that. Nope.
I mean, she doesn't listen to this anyway.
Okay, I don't care.
So yeah, no, if there's nothing else you guys you want to talk about,
I'm good.
Awesome. I want to thank everybody that came and hang out on Twitch, because you guys are great. I was not expecting to get up to like 15/20 viewers at any time. That was crazy. Especially because I was just like, hey, come hang out and check this out, because if I'm going to record it, I might as well stream it, because I'm not like I'm going to edit this. At least not too heavily. You guys are great. The response has been amazing. Tell your friends. Like, share, subscribe. I hate doing it. I look forward to, in 6 months, or whatever it is that we set up for the next one, maybe when I kill all of you, and we have to talk about a new game, or something along those lines.
Blades in the dark.
Yo, no joke. If Blades was more popular, this would have been a Blades actual play, not Shadowrun.
I love Blades.
Oh, it's so good.
It's getting there too. Like it seems to be a lot of traction there. So
it is, and it's super easy to hack into all kinds of things. I've got like 7% of a feudal Japan samurai hack in my head.
I actually bought one of them. I bought the one that's Scum and Villainy, the
awesome.
sci-fi one.
You could totally run that for us then.
Yeah, I'm not gonna run. No, it's too much. Like I really admire people who can run Blades. I think it's just really like off the cuff. You have to be really imaginative, spontaneous. It's hard. I've tried.
I have complete faith in you.
Maybe that could be a future thing. Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe. We'll see.
So, all right. You guys want to say thank yous and goodbyes? Go around the horn.
Thank you so much, guys. All the Patreons, everyone who listens. Honestly, I think it's super awesome. I'm really happy that this has taken off. I wasn't sure where this was going to go when we started. Part of me thought, no one was going to listen, but the support has been great. So thank you so much.
Thanks for everyone here and listening and whatnot, and thanks to my parents and wife for listening to me. I'm really bad with words.
Thank you, Chuck's parents and wife.
Oh, and probably my brother-in-law might listen to this if it's uploaded, so him as well.
Screw you, you're a jerk.
Oh, also 2 other players from my group. So, yeah.
You guys are cool.
No, thank you to everybody that listens, that puts up with RC's bad jokes, and it's really fun to be in this podcast and to hang out with everybody else every week, every other week. I'm having a great time, and I hope everybody else has a great time listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot to everybody who does listen and takes the time out of their day to hit that download button or leave a comment or do whatever you end up doing, that you've been following along with us. It does mean a lot to us. It's one of the reasons why we keep doing this. Have some fun and provide entertainment for other people.
You've already been thanked by 5 people. I hope I'm not. If I make or break it, I don't know what to tell you. But thanks for
Shit.
being here. Thanks for
And
listening
we
to
just
us.
lost everybody.
Yeah, that's 6 guy. 5 for 6. Hashtag unsubscribe. You know, like that. Sorry. Thank you for listening to it. That's really cool. I've had a great time. This has been a really cool experience for someone who never had a lot of opportunity to role play until like the past 2 or 3 years. Everybody here is awesome. I hope it comes across as fun as it is making it. So again, thanks, Deuces.
So yeah, thanks guys for everything, especially for putting up with the fact that I never pushed the fucking record button.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. The good news
Thank
is
God it never happened.
Well, how?
Twitch automatically records it, doesn't it?
Oh,
Twitch does automatically record it.
fuck!
You didn't record. You didn't hit record. You yelled at me for interrupting you on hitting the record thing, and you never hit record.
I never hit the record button.
Oh my god!
Oh
You
my
yelled.
god.
Yeah, I clued in
That's
half an hour
hilarious.
ago that Craig wasn't started. So
Oh,
I just thought you might have been doing it differently.
I wasn't gonna do it with Craig. I was doing it with OBS, but I hit the start
Oh,
streaming
okay.
button, and then we started talking and just started getting into it, and then I was totally gonna hit the start recording button separately, so that I had the recording separate from the stream, but I never did.
Do you want us to start asking you if you're recording?
No, because we never stream it, so this was just
Can't
a
believe it.
streaming thing.
All right. Well, at
Worst
least it's saved on
jam ever.
Twitch. So
Yeah, it's on Twitch. I'm gonna export it to YouTube like immediately after I stop. So,
that's fine.
yeah, no, it's not. Well, I should have just not told you so that you would.
You shouldn't have, because now
Yeah.
we're gonna judge you harshly.
We're gonna give you shit for the next forever.
Forever. Remember
Until-
that time that you didn't record an
It was-
entire episode?
Right
This
after
is-
you. This is right after you
This
shot
is
that copy.
this is your you. Yes, I was gonna say this is your moment. This is the copy shot in the back. Bams.
Yeah. Something like that.
Well, does it matter? If Twitch records it, it's recorded.
It doesn't
It
matter
Does-
at all.
it does
No, it
matter.
No.
Because he yelled at me because I interrupted him announcing the whole record thing, and he never hit record.
Oh, that reminds me. I want to give a
You do
special
realize.
shout out. I want to give a special shout out thanks to
Oh.
Craig. He's a great guy. He's in every single one of our
He's
streams.
creepy.
Never interrupts us at all.
He's
He's just
yes, he
just
does.
nice as the guys.
Oh, God.
I need to update my favorite NPC. It's definitely Craig. There he goes. There he goes.
He's so creepy.
No recording.
So, Mary Sue, you do realize that he can spin this to the whole point of the whole reason he didn't hit the record button is because you interrupted him.
It's true.
Oh, he'll spin it to however it makes him look best. I know that. I know who I'm talking to.
Things are getting salty in here right at the
No,
end.
I'm not
Right
salty.
at the end.
No. No. It's
Whatever
9
you say,
o'clock. It's
no,
the saltine hour.
no.
I'm
It's the saltine hour. I like that.
She has to go to the cabinet, get out some crackers. It's that time.
Were you saying salting or saltine? Because I like saltine.
You can have saltine.
That's
We'll
beautiful. I
retcon
love
that
it.
to saltine hour. Okay.
I'm definitely going to use that in the future, and I will credit you. I'll credit
Thank you.
with it.
So with that bombshell out there, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are awesome and the reason we continue to do this. So you're great. You're a shining star.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.